There we go. None of the bots seem to be posting, but that's okay. Because whatever, I guess. Hello and welcome to this week's Indie Thursday stream. This week we are going to be continuing or starting our playthrough really of the Higurashi console arcs, starting with Taraimawashi, which is a retelling mostly of Onikakushi, but involves elements of Watanagashi and the third one that I've forgotten the name of as well. So it's sort of like, as I understand it, almost like combines all three to see like what would happen if something else were to happen in the situation. So I don't know. I've never. We are now in the like Hundo P blind zone for me. I don't know any of this. So let's swap over to the game to play. Where I will once again fail to balance audio like a regular person. Anyway, as you can see, thanks to your friend and mine 07th mod, I got all of the console arcs here. So let's hop straight in. To Taraimawashi, Passing Blame. Chapter is an alternative take on Onikakushi, can be read after the completion of Chapter 3 to Higurashi. Keiichi does his best to avoid the major conflicts in Hinamizawa. We've still got the baby laughing, but it's slightly different. All people seek to escape from hardship. All people seek dreams beyond their reality. What on earth drives them to continue turning their eyes from the obstacles they must surmount, and what they may lose in the process? Welcome to Taraimawashi. It's not a sin to run away, but reality is not as sweet as your dreams. What is it you wish to see? I shall show it to you. What is it you wish to hear? I shall tell you about it. But please do not expect anything, as I'm sure someone like yourself who closes their eyes and ears will find no meaning in it. The cotton swayed as it drifted downstream. Before we get into this, I checked in advance the translation of the name, because normally I forget about that until I'm halfway through the first chapter of it. This, I can't remember the exact translation, but it's sort of like passing the cup around or something like that, and it basically refers to the idea of like passing the blame onto someone else when something bad happens so you don't have to take responsibility for it. Also, that noise you just heard was me accidentally hitting my keyboard. I apologise. The cotton swayed as it drifted downstream. The Watanagashi ceremony must still be going on upstream. As I stared blindly at the river, pondering those thoughts, I failed to notice that Reina and the others had already moved on without me. I wasn't too worried about it, though. I've already grown familiar enough with the village to feel like one of the locals, so I decided to just relax here until someone comes back looking for me. Oh my god, hiccups. When I turned my head, I just happened to notice a person standing off near the riverbed. Looking a little closer, it looked like a girl, with her long hair swaying about. I couldn't make out her face from behind, so I started walking closer. Maybe she heard the clatter of gravel under my feet. She quickly turned back this way. Mion? Oh, good evening, Keiichi. No, it was her twin sister, Shion. Shion came to Hinamizawa to hang out with us a couple of times since the time I met her at Angel Moor, but I still have trouble telling the two of them apart from distance. Just tell by their hairs, right? /S. So hopefully most of the aspects of this will make sense from context clues from like the main series, but no doubt if something happens that I don't understand, I will be the very confused cat. Oh, so you came for the festival too, Shion? Why wouldn't I? After all, I'm a member of this village too. Shion laughed mischievously after saying that. Turn that off. In hindsight, it was an odd thing to ask. Huh? I suppose so. The village festival only happens once a year, after all. Indeed. Shion's voice dropped slightly as she answered, and she turned towards the river. I felt a hint of discomfort. Did I say something weird? No, that's not it. But... what? No, it's nothing. Even if Shion said it was nothing, her expression told me otherwise. In fact, her demeanour made it pretty clear that there was something after all. What's wrong? Shion continued pensively gazing downward. Her lips were moving faintly, but I couldn't understand a single word of it. Sorry, that phone buzz was both Twitch telling me I'm alive and my app telling me to put my dinner in. Couldn't understand a single word of it. Keiichi. Okay, I have to. Something's gone wrong, and I have to keep my mouse in the game, but hopefully I can, like, not. Okay, there we go. Then Shion raised her head and stared straight ahead at me while asking a peculiar question. If something were to happen on the same day every year, what would you think of that, Keiichi? What are you talking about? Like, maybe an accident or an incident? Oh, that doesn't sound very pleasant. What, does something happen to you if you go to the festival? No, it doesn't happen to everyone. Huh, it's a really roundabout way of speaking. If this was supposed to be a joke, that would have been the time to shoot it down. And not everyone? So did that mean it happens to someone in particular? Shion and I had stopped talking for a while. Silence filled the space between us. When it started to feel suffocating, I decided to open my mouth. But just then... Keiichi, do you believe in curses? Curses? My impulse reaction to Shion's abrupt question was to turn straight towards her and stare blankly. Did I scare you? Sorry for suddenly asking something so weird. Shion followed up with a few gentle words, but I struggled to muster a response. Her serious expression seemed eerily out of place. I couldn't help but feel uneasy. The Taraimawashi festival originally began as a ritualistic offering to quell the anger of Oyashiro-sama. We drift cotton down the river once a year to calm Oyashiro-sama down and ward off the curse. Mion and the others told me that much. But even so, what do they mean by a curse? Are they saying Oyashiro-sama isn't a compassionate god, but a malevolent one? Shion, no way. Do you actually believe in the curse? Something else I want to point out here, just because I didn't mention it earlier and I think it's relatively important to say, all of the console arcs are all, to my knowledge, fan translations. I believe the console arcs have only been released in Japanese, they've never been released in English, which means those are all both PC ports and fan translations, which means, as with any translation, there's going to be bits where the translation doesn't quite make sense, so I'm going to read out the script like as it's portrayed in these translations, but if something doesn't make sense, I will run the sentence over and over again until I can make it make sense. Also, as usual, I don't know how to speak, so I've mentioned this like 5,000 times, but term has started today. Luckily, I don't have any classes tomorrow, so tomorrow's like play catch up and prep for next week. And luckily we have Monday off because it's Easter Monday. But I'm like 4 days into term and I'm already like, oh my god, I'm dying. Anyway, do you actually believe in the curse? No, but it's complicated. There are a lot of people in this village who do, even among the youth. True believers. I see. Given her personality, I would have expected a more complete denial, but instead I was the sceptical one here. I couldn't believe that young people in a world of modern science would believe in such a thing. And it happens after the festival, every year, always right around now. What is going to happen? On the day of Taraimawashi, someone in the village... Shion paused for a moment and looked around, then spoke at a lower level. Would die. Eh? Honestly, I thought I was finally starting to get used to life in Hinamizawa, but there were still too many things that I didn't know. Like how people pretend to know nothing when you ask them about these terrible incidents that happened in the past. I knew Reina and Mion were hiding things from me. Still, they were just trying to avoid giving me a negative outlook on the village right after I moved here. Indeed, after giving it proper thought, that was the conclusion I reached. But even if it was all in the past, as a person living in Hinamizawa, I wanted to be aware of its history. I appreciated that my friends were concerned about me, but nevertheless, a part of me was bizarrely fascinated by it. So, I wanted to hear it. I signalled for Shion to continue. It began 3 years ago, on the day of Taraimawashi. A couple on vacation fell from a cliff, down to the muddy stream below. 3 years ago? Oh, I guess because she's not counting the dismemberment case. A couple on vacation fell from a cliff, down to the muddy stream below. The husband passed away and his wife's body was never found. They fell? Was it an accident? That's the official story, according to the police. The way she spoke made it clear that she had some doubts about the official story. The following year, on the night of Otanagashi, the shrine priest suddenly died of an unknown illness, and the priest's wife threw herself into the swamp that evening, committing suicide. And her corpse, too, still hasn't... The shrine priest, from this shrine specifically? Shion silently nodded. And the year after that, once again on the night of Otanagashi, a housewife from this village was found beaten to death. A shiver ran through me the moment I heard beaten to death. But more than that, something felt strange. When it came to the accident and the sudden illness, I felt like there was too strong a possibility that those were simply coincidences, so it seemed unrealistic to attribute them to a curse. But the victims were all people who were deeply involved. Deeply involved? In this village's major conflict. Hearing that reminded me of what Tomitake had told me earlier. The Hinamizawa Dam project? How do you know about that? Shion's unusually strong reaction left me confused. Was it really so odd for me to know about it? I'm really surprised, because everyone tries to keep the story a secret from anyone who doesn't know. Can't believe you know about it, Keiichi. I see. I thought that might be the case. I see. Then, do you also know that all of the people I mentioned earlier were either supporters of the dam movement or reluctant to actively stand against it? So in other words, the guardian god of Hinamizawa was retaliating against the dam construction project that could have submerged Hinamizawa. At least that's what the people of Hinamizawa seem to believe. All the victims on the night of Otanagashi were people connected to the dam project and to Ayashiro-sama. But the beating death seemed different from the other incidents, because it was clearly a murder. Thinking about it that way, I started to worry that maybe the housewife beaten to death had a similar connection. What kind of person was the housewife who was beaten to death? Was she somehow related to the dam project too? Her husband was the brother of the couple who fell from the cliffs while on vacation. Instead of allaying my fears, the tight connection only amplified them. The curse took her life, simply because a relative of hers was a dam supporter? The curse born from the dam project, and the depths the village was willing to go in order to keep it under wraps. The more I thought about it, the more anxious I started to feel about these incidents. I kind of wish that I had played these before I'd done the answer arcs, because the mystery of this is lessened now that we know the real meanings behind all of the murders. But at the same time, I guess it's kind of nice. It almost makes you feel like this sort of omnipotent god. You know, you're the Ayashiro-sama or the Hanyu who has lived through all of these repetitions and seen all of these different worlds, and so you're the Hanyu who sort of has the answers but is pretty much unable to give them to anyone for a wide variety of reasons. Okay, bear with a sec. I am going to take my jacket off because I'm very warm, and also because my arm hurts and I want a cushion.
Come on in,
chap. Come on in. Hello, Thionel. Thank you very much for the raid. It is very much appreciated. How are you? I hope you are doing well. Apparently my alerts aren't working anymore, but we get the call noise, so there we go. Hello friends from Thionel stream. It is me, Moch. I am a variety streamer. Hello. And at the moment I am streaming Higurashi When They Cry, Taraimawashi, which is one of the spin-off console arcs of the main story, so warning, spoilers for all the question arcs of Higurashi ahead. Hello, Vengeful Shrike. Jeez, I've lost the ability to read as well as speak, clearly. How are you, Thionel? I hope you are doing well. Hope you're having a good day. I hope you had a good stream as well. Let's see. I am going to see if something that I set up ages ago actually works. And the answer is, no it doesn't. Hang on, I'm going to pause this because every time I scroll down it misbehaves. There we go. Hello Blue Dragon Arc, good name. I forget that scrolling also does a thing. Yeah, I'm getting the noise, but I'm not getting the visual alerts. Happens with Streamlabs every so often, so it's probably a sign to me that I need to like redo them. But I know Twitch has been having problems recently, so who knows? Constant question. Right. Read. Here we go. Thank you for the follow. It is appreciated. Blue Dragon, thank you. More anxious I started to feel about these incidents. And Vengeful Shrike, thank you for the follow as well. I appreciate it. More anxious I started to feel about these incidents. Like the incident at the dam construction site. Yes, the brutal on-site murder of the manager. Discussions got heated around the time construction was getting started. Then scandals started coming to light, shaking things up. And then the dismemberment murder brought the dam construction project to a complete halt. Words. Speaking. How? As soon as the word murder came out of Shion's mouth, I could hear it echo hauntingly. It happened late at night, on the day of Watanagashi, 1979. 6 men attacked the victim after an argument broke out. It seems at first they didn't intend to kill, but once the victim started swinging a shovel at them, they drew weapons of their own, and the situation quickly escalated to murder. Insert murder noises here. The angry men's roars intertwined, with sparks flying as their shovels and pickaxes collided. And the victim was the manager of the dam construction site. Should probably put a content warning in the title, which I always forget to do. Despite the fact that I've been streaming Higurashi for months now, and should remember that it's almost always going to have mentions of violence, if not worse. Manager of the dam construction site. The suspects alleged that the construction manager was mistreating the 6 of them on a daily basis. Behave, game. A drinking party went on too long that night, and their gradually escalating temper led to an argument. It started as an act of retaliation, but in the end, everyone joined in together. Gross murder noises here. The men's enraged shouts echoed in my head. The shovels and pickaxes collided and the sparks scattered. In the middle of the dark night, I could see the entire situation playing out inside my head. When they finally came to their senses, they noticed the lack of life in his eyes. All that remained was his gruesome corpse, lying there. Also, yeah, I probably should have said a warning. Higurashi is full of violence and gross, so be warned. Despite that, it is, in my opinion, a very good game series. I really like it. But it is also, like, kind of full of violence and various other things. A dull, dark liquid was spread across the ground. A sickening aroma lingered, and then they all looked at their shovels and pickaxes and found them covered not in dirt, but something else. Still, that wasn't enough. So the suspects took the construction site manager and they dismembered him. Why? Why would they do something so horrible? Of course, the men considered going to the police right away, but the leader of the group suggested that they hide the corpse. So he and the other 5 men, their thoughts quickly honed in on the desire to avoid getting caught. Indeed, they weren't in this alone. Each of them had 5 other accomplices with them. They all worked together to hide it. They could keep it hidden. They'd all arrived at that conclusion. Plus, the construction site afforded them many ways to conceal the corpse. They wanted to hide the corpse quickly and get out of there right away. I could picture 5 men desperately working, and their desire to get out of there as soon as possible. However, the leader feared that the other 5 men might turn themselves in, and the incident would come to light. So right then and there, he needed to ensure that the other 5 would keep their mouths shut. How on earth could he accomplish that? Shion suddenly went quiet. It seemed like she was hesitating while deciding if she should say. What happened, Shion? I urged Shion to tell me. She hesitated for a moment while choosing her words, then began to speak. The corpse was sliced apart so that each person could bear the responsibility of hiding their respective piece. Huh? Fucking pardon? I see. The truth behind the dismemberment murder. It was divided evenly amongst the people involved. Hiccup time. They each bore a piece to remind them of the sin they committed. I couldn't help but see their logic as a demonic way of thinking. Though the men were crying and trembling, none of them were able to resist. Some of them weren't simply following out of obedience. Rather, they were afraid that the leader might try to kill them. In the end, they all agreed to it. I stood there for a while, unable to close my mouth. The dam construction conflict was a fight for the survival of Hinamizawa, and a horrific murder happened during the course of that conflict. That much I already knew, and I was just expecting to hear that again. But in fact, it was far more than just that. A murder, an accident, a deadly illness, a suicide, a beating to death, killing. I grew up in the modern era. I'd rather not believe in something like a curse. Still, these mysterious deaths keep happening every year on the day of Otanagashi. And on top of that, the victims are always directly related to the dam project. When you look at each incident individually, it's easy to see them as completely coincidental. But when they all keep adding up... So, a fun thing that I think about, which is that last year's, which is Satoko's Aren't Dying, is, despite being like the most horrible and visceral, except for the dismemberment murder, second most horrible and visceral, it's also the least connected to the construction site, because the person who was killed was the wife of the brother of the guy who led the pro-construction site movement within the village. So it's, despite being the one that you're like most like, oh my god, that's a curse, when you actually think about it, you're like, but what a weird way to target someone. I don't believe in curses. However, it certainly seems like someone or something is deciding that something should happen on every Watanagashi. Hold on, does that mean someone is going to die tonight as well? Who could it be this time? I have no idea. Well, of course, if she knew anything about it, she'd be trying to prevent it. An unsettling wind blew across my gross, sweaty body. No one is talking about it, but everyone is worried something is going to happen again tonight. Then the reason everyone is participating in the festival is because they're all afraid of being cursed? Right, they're all terrified of Oyashiro-sama's curse. I was left speechless. We're living in the Showa era. We've made incredible progress in every field of research, shining a light on the darkness of our ignorance. Black and white TVs are pretty much extinct. We managed to build a rocket that can send human beings to the moon. Nevertheless, even though we live in such a modern society, little by little I was finally starting to understand why Reina and Mion were so hesitant to talk about it. If Otanagashi ends this year without an incident, then I suppose there'd be no point in telling me anything. If nothing happens, then everything is fine, in which case it's all needless panic. I just need to pretend that I never knew anything. The girls can act like nothing ever happened, and then we can get back to our normal everyday lives. Right. If I don't know anything, then... I shouldn't have told you, should I? No, that's not... Even though I tried my hardest to speak normally, I couldn't completely disguise the anxiety building up inside me. Then Shion continued, with no regard for whether I understood or not. But, Keiichi, you shouldn't just be concerned about the person who dies after Watanagashi is over. Maybe you've already realised. Another person needs to disappear along with them. In the murder of the construction site manager 4 years ago, it was the leader of the group. In the accident when on vacation, the wife was swept away by the river. The shrine priest's wife leapt into the water after his death. One person dies and another disappears. I mentioned the housewife's beating a little while ago. After that incident, a child from that family also went missing. Right. It was so sudden. Shion's voice dipped even lower. I should have been able to hear the sound of the babbling stream, but that sound didn't reach my ears at all. On top of that, the voice of the Higurashi kept echoing in my ears, like they weren't aware at the time. It was incredibly irritating. The incident happened around 9 p.m. on June 20th last year. A housewife was found lying on her back, in a pool full of blood, day before my birthday. At first, it seems they could only tell she was some sort of unidentified middle-aged woman. It can't be. This isn't some big city like Tokyo. If you asked anyone in the neighbourhood, they'd immediately know who you were talking about, right? Because this incident is like tied to around June 20th, 21st, I really wanted last year to do like a special Higurashi stream on June 21st for like her birthday and also Murder Day stream. given that the 20th is usually when things start to go wrong, 21st rather, but events did not conspire that way. Depending on what I do for my birthday this year, maybe they will. Imagine I know who you're talking about, right? It seems like a natural question. However, Shion's response was both scathing and horrifying. Indeed, you'd think so, but her face was completely crushed beyond recognition. For a moment, my thoughts ceased. My eyes. If her face was completely destroyed, then they wouldn't be able to recognise who she was. It took me a moment to realise that. But I felt a strange irritation, like a hair scraping against the inside of my ear. I had to rewind the tape just to hear those words again. Her face was crushed beyond recognition. Goosebumps erupted across my entire body and sweat was pouring out of every available opening. The police suspected the crime was an act of revenge, because the culprit initially smashed up the back of her head, then intentionally rolled the corpse over in order to smash her face in. The incident happened in the early summer. All that swinging must have fanned the scent of blood all around the vicinity. I suddenly felt sick as I imagined the sight and smell. And after the incident, a child from that family went missing. A child of the housewife whose face was crushed disappeared without a trace. How does that fit in? There should be some logical reason behind it. So, is there anything? Before the boy went missing, he said this: "Someone is watching me, following me from behind." Anyone dealing with that mental state would be frightened by mere shadows. So this is one of the key spooky aspects of this game, is the idea of like being followed, and the third footstep, where if you're walking and you stop, there's one more footstep behind you, which the person doesn't stop at the same time as you. And I read I think the first maybe third of the manga, and never got around to reading more. But I read a fair chunk of the manga, and the third footstep was genuinely one of the things that freaked me out most about it, because it is such a creepy concept. Ugh. If that's what the kid said, I don't think there's much room to argue that. But the story was completely different if the kid was feeling that way before the incident even happened. Then the kid might have been convinced that disaster was about to come down on him and his family. Someone told me that's a warning sign of Yashiro-sama's curse. That kid must have had the desire to abandon Hinamizawa locked away somewhere inside his heart, or Yashiro-sama wouldn't allow it. A god who won't let the villagers abandon the village? Could that really exist? I couldn't believe in a god that would force that kind of devotion on people. So, I'm certain someone is going to be sacrificed tonight, as well. Keiichi! Shion's words were interrupted by a voice calling out to me. When I looked back, I saw Mion waving her arms while running in my direction. Sorry for leaving you all alone. Huh? Shion? Good evening, sis. Did you need something? Need something? You're saying I can't come here if I don't need something? Why has she got the spooky eyes? For a split second, Mion's voice had the hot breath of a beast behind it, and a bloody aroma that drifted all around me. The hot breath filled the area, and made all the hairs on my body stand on end. I really don't like the spooky eyes. Was I the only one who felt it? I took a sideways glance at Shion's face. There was no mistaking the narrow look in Shion's eyes. Seemed obvious she felt something from Mion's words. But Shion took it in stride and shrugged her shoulders, then answered in a light tone. But it does seem like you need something. That's why I'm asking. She was deliberately prodding at her sister's heart. Oh? Next moment, Mion let out a pleasantly boisterous laugh. All the tension that was building up released at once, and a feeling of relief instantly came over me. Even though my heart couldn't fully comprehend the situation, I let out a sigh of relief for something like that. And here I was convinced I'd caught you before you did something you'd regret. Something I'd regret? Like what? Hey, I'm the one asking questions here. The restless atmosphere came flowing back. Then Shion lightly smiled. Ah yes, quite true. Then what's this something I'd regret? I faintly tilted my head to the side. Mion's expression grew more tense as she attempted to dodge the question. But a moment later, Mion returned to her usual carefree expression. And then, so, Shion, don't you have work today? What time is it? It's already about that time. Mion pointed to her watch. Oh, that's no good. It's later than I thought. See, that's what I was telling you. I caught you before you'd regret being late. Huh? That's what you meant? Thanks for letting me know, sis. I'm sorry, Keiichi. It's about time for me to head to work. After saying that, Shion walked off at a brisk pace. Mion led out a sigh while watching her from behind. And just as I made a wry smile and was about to comment on how troublesome Shion was... That Shion. What was she up to? Huh? She asked that so suddenly, my voice got caught in the back of my throat. What was she telling you, Keiichi? Nothing really? Why are you trying to hide it? Huh? I could tell right away that you were hiding it. You'll have to do better than that to deceive this old man. I sensed a bright light glimmering in the back of Mion's piercing gaze. I couldn't find the words to respond. I hesitated for a while, deciding if I ought to repeat what Shion told me. It was a story that Mion and the others were trying to keep hidden. I turned my gaze downwards as I wrestled to find the right words. I could see tons of cotton floating down the river by my feet. But why? Maybe it was due to the chilling story I just heard, but... The piles of cotton started to resemble slabs of meat sliding down a conveyor belt. Suddenly, I felt like I had to throw up. Keiichi? I was bent over, holding a hand to my mouth. Are you all right? Mion put a hand on my shoulder. Her hand was filled with soft, gentle warmth. I started to calm down. Sorry, I may have come on a little strong there. But, don't let it worry you. That girl tends to say things with bad taste, and she has a habit of making fun of people. I'm okay. She didn't say anything weird. Really? 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 Yes, really. Mion carefully looked me over. You're acting weird, Mion. You're being awfully suspicious, aren't you? Huh? No. This old man was... I was just wondering what the two of you were doing alone in such a dark place, that's all. What are you talking about? I have no idea what you're getting at. Tut-tut, this is a season when the sun is burning hottest, isn't it? It's the middle of the night, so now I have even less an idea what you're talking about. Just kidding. Maybe this old man is getting too sceptical for its own good. The conversation had steered in an awkward direction, but I still felt terrible for being unable to talk to Mion about what Shion was telling me. As a result, I couldn't even bring myself to ask if the story was true or not. I could still see a hint of doubt on Mion's face. Pardon me, so I vaguely laughed along with her. Keiichi, I'm sorry. God. So, fun / slightly personal fact, I started HRT, testosterone, the other day, and I had the abrupt thought that I'm excited to see, as my voice changes, whether I can keep doing my Reina voice. I looked back in the direction of that voice and saw Reina bouncing up and down while running towards me. Satoko and Rika were panting heavily while running behind her. I'm really sorry. We totally forgot about you, Keiichi. What? I'm outraged that you could forget about me. That's not true. We really were looking for you, but we got a little absorbed in our conversation. Then why say that you forgot about me? It wasn't just our conversation. The sweets we picked up at the store were distracting too, so it wasn't our fault. Yeah, those apricot candies we picked up were delicious, weren't they? Weren't they? You guys really forgot about me. The three of them looked at each other and grinned. I meekly leaned back and looked up towards the sky. Phone says... Lots of buzz. You guys, you're all so... Hey everyone. Then Tomitake came over to us. Oh, if it isn't Mr. Tomitake. You're just in time, Tomitake. We should announce the results of today's shooting game. Oh, yeah, that's right. I guess I came in last place after all. Today's game ended with my dramatic victory, but it was followed by a fierce battle to avoid last place. Rika was the last one to take the challenge, but by then there were hardly any targets left. And the few targets that did remain were as small as a box of matches. Rika tried aiming at a target, but the counter was too tall. It's impossible to maintain a stable posture while standing on your tiptoes. Not even I could pull that off. On top of that, the gun was so heavy that her arms couldn't help but shake. Everything added up to an impossible task. Nonetheless, it's a cutthroat, competitive world. Even if you're at a disadvantage, you need to rise above it, using your own strength in order to succeed. Strike back at your enemies. That's the law governing our club activities, our core value. With that in mind, I had no choice but to encourage Rika. In other words, with the three of us already out of the picture, her best options were to tie it up with Tomitake. That's what I thought. However, battle-hardened Rika had the most powerful weapon of them all hidden behind her back. And that weapon was... She suddenly started crying, meep meep, in front of the stall, forcing the shopkeeper into a dilemma. Naturally, the guests walking by assumed that the shopkeeper was the one who made her cry, so they all began coldly glaring at him. It couldn't be helped. He couldn't resist the young lady, so he handed her a pack of gum. In the end, there was nothing Tomitake could do to beat that. Rika was like a sly fox or a cunning tanuki. I love Rika. Keiichi, you're thinking terrible thoughts, aren't you? I'm a wonderful human being, you. Ultimately, I decided her faint crying felt more fox-like. And with that, it's decided. Last place goes to Tomitake. An uproar of applause rang out. That's right. Thank you very much. Tomitake seemed a bit confused and shyly scratched the back of his neck. How sad, he was completely blindsided by the horrors of this group. So, what does that mean? Unfortunately, it's about time for Keiichi to say lucky you, Tomitake. That's right, he's very lucky. Oh ho ho! Most fortunate indeed. I'm envious. If you're so envious, you're welcome to trade places. That's good, that's good. I'm jealous too. They're all demons. Right, Tomitake, are you ready for your penalty? Huh? Oh, right, I forgot. Well, we haven't forgotten our part. Mion pulled a felt tip marker from out of her pocket. Ah, and she has a mischievous look on her face. Permanent marker is too harsh. Couldn't she show him some mercy and use a washable one? It has to be permanent. Water-based marker would come off in the laundry. Whoa, what is that? What is this? You're going to write with that? All of us pinned his arm behind his back, and Mion approached him with a marker in hand. The tension in the air was frightening. That's it. Okay, scribble, scribble, and done. But she didn't write on Tomitake's face. She wrote on the shirt he was wearing. You better have your big break this year, Mion. Then Rika was next to take a turn with the marker. Even if you came in last place, you're number one in my heart, Rika. Made me smile bitterly. This isn't a penalty at all. It's more like a farewell card. Oh ho ho, I'm not as soft as the rest. I'll make sure this is a proper penalty. Hope you come in last place again next time. Oh ho ho, Satoko. You're up next, right, Keiichi? I couldn't decide what to rate, but based on what kind of penalty this was probably the most appropriate. Come back and play again, Keiichi. And finally, I handed the marker to Reina. Reina hummed to herself as she considered what to write, but then she wrote something in a flash. Show me your photos next time, okay? Reina. Tomitake's eyes were open wide when we started, but by the end he was smiling gleefully. You going to make me wear this all the way back to Tokyo? Of course. It's a penalty, after all. You better wear it all the way home. You could wear it next time you come back. It'd be nice. He appeared deeply moved. Embarrassment mixed with a wealth of other emotions made him turn bright red. Understood. I'll wear this the next time I come here. I promise. Yeah, that's right. I hope we get to see his photos next time, like Reina asked. Right. Tomitake, I'd like you to take a picture of everyone. Of course, let's commemorate the occasion together. As Tomitake said that, he laid down a tripod and configured the self-timer. Sorry. Oh God, I can't spell on my phone. Ready? I'm taking it now. Okay, say cheese. Everyone cheered and applauded. It was the finest parting gift possible for a buddy heading out tonight. I saw the woman who was with Tomitake standing near the festival grounds. It seems Tomitake noticed her too and knew it was time to leave. Seems like your guest is waiting. Isn't it about time, huh? That's certainly how it seems. Tomitake headed off towards her and seemed to apologise for making her wait. We all shouted stuff at Tomitake. Each time we did, he looked back and waved his hand. Eventually he faded into the darkness of the night, out of sight. He's gone. Well, this old man needs to stay here and help with cleanup. Mion was apparently involved with the post-festival cleanup, and Rika needed to attend some meeting with the executive committee members. Satoko was tagging along with her, so Reina and I decided to break off here and head home together. Later, Keiichi. See you tomorrow. Then Mion waved her hand. Oh, Mion. Mion suddenly stopped when I called out to her. I wanted to ask about the incident and why she wouldn't tell me about it, but then I remembered that the victims of the incident were people opposed to the dam project. So they were enemies of the Sonozaki family. In the end, I couldn't bring myself to ask about it. See you tomorrow. That was all I could say. Yep, see you tomorrow. I had a vaguely confused look on my face as I saw Mion off. As I did that, Raina looked back at me with a blank expression. New tips unlocked. I don't know how many chapters are in this game. So... I'm going to look that up. Oh my god. Take up time. Apparently there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 chapters and the alternate ending. I hit the wrong button there. Okay, cool. That just gives me an idea of, like, how things are spaced out. About 45 minutes per chapter. Cool. Trying mostly to work out how many streams it'll be. From an evening paper on June XX 1980. Around 2 p.m. on XX Day, an office worker from Hinamizawa village in the Shishibono City region, Mr. XX and his wife, Ms. XX, both went missing after falling into a mountain stream 27 metres below an observation deck in Shirakawa Natural Park. Police and firefighters searching downstream located the body of Ms. XX around 7 p.m. the same night. The wife, Mrs. XX, has still not been located. The mountain stream is especially active due to a Category 3 typhoon the other day, making the search more difficult. The husband and wife were leaning against a fence at the observation deck, and both fell when the fence broke. The fence was held in poor condition, so police are questioning concerned parties to determine if the park facility personnel were taking adequate precautions. I'm not going to say who the names are until it reveals it. Just in case anybody hasn't, doesn't know the story that well, I'm not going to spoil things as they appear in the game. This story was never published in the newspapers. Okay. This story was never published in the newspapers. And that's it. Cool. Well. Good morning, Mion. Raina waved to Mion as she came running over. I joined in and called out to her. Good morning, Raina, Keiichi. Thanks for all your help yesterday, both of you. Thanks for taking care of cleanup, Mion. I wanted to say something to thank Mion for all her hard work too. Even though it was a small village festival, it still involved the entire village. It was pretty big on its own scale. Must have been pretty tough tidying everything up. That's right. I think it went on till about 3 a.m. Then I came home and took a bath. I didn't get to sleep around 4:30. I took a moment to process Mion's response, then my eyes shrank the moment I recognised the words 4:30. 4:30? Seriously, you might as well have not slept at all. If I was in that condition, There's no way I'd be going to school. Honestly, I truly felt that way. Keiichi, the look on your face says there's no way I'd be going to school, huh? Reina was reading my mind. Because you're easy to understand, Keiichi. According to Mion, the adults were still active until dawn. It was clear how passionate the villagers were about their festival. We were all chatting together as I put my hand on the classroom door. But just then, the crisis management system inside my brain immediately kicked in. I looked up above and sure enough, I saw a blackboard eraser. Haha, how sweet. I grabbed it and triumphantly stepped into the classroom. But the next moment, I found myself looking up at the ceiling. I slipped down and felt the mild pain of landing on my butt. And to make matters worse, the blackboard eraser covered in white powder landed squarely on my face. When I tossed it aside and raised my upper body, I could see an abacus sliding away by my feet. Oh my, Keiichi, you're quite the entertainer, entering into the classroom with a showy backflip. I got up and headed towards the culprit as fast as I could. My index finger travelled with tremendous momentum as it struck its target. Oh, Keiichi poked me in the forehead. That was quite a fiendish trap today, and that's not even the worst of it. Reina looked on the verge of fainting, and Mion looked stunned while watching the debacle. Everything was just like usual. All my classmates were here, and the atmosphere hadn't changed at all. I'm really going to need to scoot away from my desk for like 30 seconds. Not to have flare-ups for no good reason. Should have had to take some painkillers. Everything was just like usual. All my classmates were here and the atmosphere hadn't changed at all. Even though things were a bit cloudy in the back of my mind last night, everything was starting to clear up. I felt relieved as I looked around the classroom. Without even thinking, a smile spilled across my face. The kind of smile a random bystander might think looked creepy. Reina noticed my creepy smile and turned to me, looking concerned. What's going on, Keiichi? Did you bump your head? Did you? My graceful landing was executed perfectly. You think I should do it again? That's not necessary. That'd be what? Alright, teacher has arrived. Everyone, please be seated. Everyone listened to Mion's command and took a seat. Good morning, everyone. So yesterday was the festival. I want to thank everyone who stayed late to help with the cleanup. Now, over the next few days, you might see people conducting interviews about the festival for TV and magazines. I thought it was the usual stuff, so I was going to tune it out, but then I noticed the different tone in her voice and started paying attention. You may be asked questions. Please don't say anything silly or something that could be taken the wrong way. Do you understand? In unison, everyone replied, Yes, ma'am. Her words were jovial, but I understood what she was trying to say. After all, this was the 5th year. Reports from talk shows and third-rate magazines are probably looking for a story, asking what the curse of the 5th year might be. As far as the villagers are concerned, I guess it's a major pain that only promotes a bad impression of the village, so they're not going to give them what they want. This time, I'll be on the side with the villagers, and in that case I'll have to do my part. Adjusting myself to fit in the village atmosphere is an important step in deepening my ties with the village. I'm sure there won't be any club activities today, since everyone is still exhausted from last night. What should I do then? I haven't been to the Okonomiya arcade in a long time. Just as I was thinking that, Mion patted me on the shoulder. What are you staring at so absent-mindedly for, Keiichi? It's almost time for a club activity. We're actually doing it? I completely set aside all the thoughts that were running through my head. I should have expected as much from Mion. She's not tired at all after yesterday. No, it wasn't just Mion. Rika should have stuck around to help with clean-up too. And Satoko went with her, so they were probably all still at the shrine until late last night. Nevertheless, they all seemed to be acting in high spirits. But I'm sure the fatigue was still there, hiding beneath the surface. I can't let this opportunity go to waste. I'll use this to take everyone down. Keiichi, what are you smirking about? Oh ho ho, I'm sure you're thinking that we're all tired and today is your big chance of victory. Ugh, she's absolutely right. Keiichi, the colour on your face seems to have changed. Oh dear, Keiichi. Sorry. I heard a weird noise. I thought it was a honking bridge outside, but I think it may have been the game. I guess I was right on the mark. Oh ho ho. Keiichi, was she right on the mark? Was she? Keiichi, don't expect our club to be soft and fragile. Everyone's eyes lit up at once. How could I forget? These are our battle-hardened club members. I love the artwork, it's so cute. Right then, it's time to announce today's game. Today's game is... Mion pulled out a stack of cards and slammed them down. A classic game of deduction. I sounded new. A game from overseas, huh? This looks interesting. Instructions are English, but the rules aren't that complicated. Oh, I'm no good at this game. I won't lose this one. Reina's complexion didn't look so great. I guess she's not very good at this game either. Here are the rules. First person to identify the killer, the murder weapon, and the scene of the crime will be declared the winner. Seems there are 3 types of cards: suspects, weapons, and locations. I noticed Mion, Rika, and everyone's names written on the suspect cards. Oh, there's even a card with my name on it. There are plenty of different weapon cards too. An axe, a knife, and even poison. No baseball bat. And the location cards were pretty nice too. A study, a courtyard, an attic, even the back of a gym. No shrine. No basement of someone's house. Trying to think what the other weapons. What have we got? Obviously we've got the cleaver. We've got the baseball bats. Spooky stuff. So basically, one of each card type is set aside, and those are the answer cards. We shuffle the remaining cards and divide them equally between everyone. Then we ask each other about the cards and use that information to determine the answer cards. I see, so the cards that nobody has are the true perpetrators. Then you raise your hand if you know the answer. The game ends and we check if the answer's correct. If you were right, you get a point. If you're wrong, you lose a point. Since the game ends even if no one gets it right, all the cards are gathered up and redistributed. Got it, Keiichi? You'll learn as you go. This game requires a lot of brain power. You'll get confused if you don't take notes, okay? Did you follow all that? Reina quickly pulled out paper to take notes on. She looks rather intense. So what's the penalty for today's game, Mion? Everyone turned towards Mion. Let's see. We're all still a little tired from yesterday, so maybe we'll take it easier with a gopher penalty. You'll be asked to rush out and buy stuff for everyone. So just being asked to go buy stuff like drinks and candy, I guess. But I feel like today's penalty is too soft. Wonder, is it really? Keiichi, looks like you're thinking otherwise. Because you don't know what you'll have to go out and buy. This is Mion we're talking about. I'm sure she'd make the loser buy stuff like hemorrhoid cream or athlete's foot medicine or something completely absurd. I carefully looked over at Mion's face. I could sense a glow in her eyes. Indeed, I need to do everything in my power to stay out of last place. Alright, let's get started. The cards were lightly shuffled and passed out to each player. The true culprit, the murder weapon, and the crime scene have been taken out, so that means all the cards I have in my hand are innocent cards. Well, Rika came in first place last night, so we'll start with her. Thank you. Meep. I think it was Sutoko with the axe in the courtyard. You pick one suspect, weapon, and murder scene and ask the other players. If you have any of those cards, you must say, I have one. However, you don't need to say which one you have. Yep, I got it. Me too. Me too. Oh my, all of them are here. 3 people answered when being asked if they had Sutoko, axe, or courtyard. So that means that all those are in the clear. Gotta jot that down. Then I'm up next. I say it's Keiichi, knife, attic. Only 2 people said they had one? So that means, out of Keiichi, knife, and attic, one of those is part of the correct answer? The killer, the weapon, or the crime scene? No, wait, even if they say they have one, they don't need to say how many. It's possible that either Reina or Mion has 2 of the cards. This is totally a mind game. Well, I'm up next. Oh, wait just a second, I'm still sorting things out. You're too slow, Keiichi. You're going to get left behind. Hey, shut up. The game has me thinking more than expected. Oh man, this feels like it's going to be tough. Ready? It's Reina with a pickaxe in the riverbed. This time, only one person responded. That means... Wait, stay calm and think it over. Alright, now I know the culprit. Here I am, spinning around in circles, and Mion just raises her hand. The murder is Rika, with the dumbbell in the back of the gym. Well? Mion drew the cards from the box, and we checked to see if her deduction was right. You're right. I was so close. I wasn't sure if it was the dumbbell, the poison, or the pistol. A dumbbell is far too heavy. I'd rather kill them slowly with poison. She has no qualms saying something like that. She sure doesn't. With such a cute look on her face, she's definitely a demon. Keiichi, don't look so terrified when you're looking at me. Me? Huh? Was it all over my face? Oh ho! You're so easy to understand, Keiichi. Things show on your face right away. At any rate, this is far more difficult than I expected. Deep down in my heart, I was feeling impatience. And when I looked at Reina, I noticed how pale her complexion looked. Apparently, Reina and I were equally unskilled at this game. Our eyes met. It seems like she had the same thought. Oh dear, look at the two of you. What's with that look on your face? You'll both end up in last place together at this rate. Ha! That's no good. I imagine the scene. A sad man going out to buy hemorrhoid cream accompanied by a girl. I shuddered just thinking about it. Seems like Keiichi is no good at this game. That's not true. I'm about to show you the power of the great detective Keiichi Maebara. My, that's some big talk. Then I'll have to give you a thorough thrashing. Stoker, I'll make you eat those words. I lined up my finger in the direction of Floorhead and made a flicking gesture 2 or 3 times. Keiichi's trying to intimidate me. There. Keiichi, it's not fair to resort to violence just because you're not confident in your own capabilities. Yeah, gotta love Rika. Once Rika said that, I had to reflect on it. I had no choice but to forgo my assault on Stoker's forehead. After a few more rounds, I was finally starting to grasp the trick to this game, but no matter how hard I tried, I was still a step behind. Me and the others were carefully studying one another's faces. There's no way I can compete with a master who can gather information just from the questions themselves. If I want to turn my overwhelming disadvantage around, I need to be ruthless. I should abandon logic and focus on the thought process needed to win. The important thing isn't to find out the criminal, it's winning. This is my chance. My only chance. Sorry, I need to go to the bathroom. Was taking a gamble. I needed to change of pace. The fresh air was helping me clear my head. I inhaled and exhaled 2 or 3 more deep breaths. At the same time, I did some stretching exercises. 2, 3. Though I was using the tension of my muscles, I was still on edge. Then I looked around the school grounds and saw some of our classmates still playing around. I never played like this after school when I lived in Tokyo. Why does my life look back then feel so abnormal in hindsight? I stared off at the natural scenery in the distance. Then I suddenly realised, I can't keep going on like this forever. Today's game was still going, so I started to wonder if my plan was going to work. Victory was riding on the power of effective teamwork. Just then, I noticed Reina exit the classroom looking confused. Keiichi, did you call for me? As I got up from my seat, I looked over at Reina. It worked. Just as I was hoping for. I guess we have good chemistry after all. Moving on. Since we didn't have much time, I straight up asked Reina how many points she'd scored today. Reina looked puzzled for a moment, then timidly opened her mouth. My score is -6, but why are you asking about that? Based on Reina's expression, I imagined it was pretty low, but I had no idea it was that bad. The way things are going, either one of us could easily end up in last place. So Reina's going to be stuck with a penalty? Come on, don't give up so easily. Don't you want to win this? Let's win. But how? I brought my lips close to Reina's ear. Whisper, whisper, whisper. Huh? Is that allowed? Think back, Reina. Second rule of our society. Do everything in your power to obtain victory. Yeah, that's right. I'll try my best. Reina assumed a fighting pose with all her might. Our strategy would never succeed without precise teamwork. At the beginning of the game, everyone would be focused on their own hand for a while, taking notes and whatnot. During that brief moment, Reina and I would quickly show our cards to one another. We'd reveal them under our desks, and all the while we'd be scribbling with our pencils. Even if the others looked up, their eyes would be drawn towards our moving hands. It's simply human nature. That was the whole point. If all goes well, nobody will notice a thing. We'll be operating with twice as much information as the other players, so our questions won't have any information gaps. Sorry if you heard me drop my phone there. I see. If we do that, we can probably win for today. No, not just probably. We will definitely win it. Then we can make Mion buy that hemorrhoid cream and athlete's foot medicine. Keiichi, your face is looking kind of scary. We can win this, Reina. You can't be put off by a scary face or two. Yeah, you're right. We both smirked at each other. Reina and I would probably dig our way out of last place before Mion managed to catch on. In fact, there was a good chance that we could take second and first place. Not bad at all. Just you watch, Mion. After Reina went back to the classroom, I took a few deep breaths before heading back myself. I did my best to avoid making eye contact with Mion. Your eyes can say as much as your mouth. Isn't that what they say? Mion is pretty smart. She usually has good intuition. So I carefully looked her over. I was fairly confident that she had no knowledge of my conspiracy. Okay, let's start the game again. Mion held her arms up high, but just then Miss Chie came over. Miss Sonozaki, do you have a minute? What is it, teacher? Sorry everyone, I need a moment. After saying that, Mion walked over to the teacher. You have a visitor, Miss Sonozaki. Please make your way to the front door. A visitor? For me? That's right, so please head there as soon as possible. Understood. Anyway, this old man needs to head out for a little while. After saying that, Mion rushed out of the classroom. A visitor for Mion? Who is it? Who is it? Mion knows a lot of people, so it's not unusual for her to have a visitor. That's true, Mion does know a lot of people. Is that so? Well, can't be helped. I gave a better look towards the way Mion left, and here I was ready to make her speechless. This sucks. At any rate, who on earth could be visiting her? We've been waiting for a while now, but there was still no indication that she was coming back. I'm sure Mion wouldn't go home without us. We're all waiting around like little pigs, oink oink. Little piggies? Little piglet Rika's so cute. I want to take her home with me. We are still in the middle of the game, aren't we? Eh? But she's so cute. Doesn't matter how cute she is. You'll have to wait until the game is over. But just a little wouldn't hurt, would it? Would it? Wait until it's over. We had a problem on our hands. Looked like everyone was starting to get impatient and bored. There's nothing we should do about it, so we should get back to the game. Once I broached the subject, everyone's eyes brightened and they nodded to me. That's right. Think about it. We are moving while the demon is away. In other words, this visitor's arrival has given us a chance. So with Mion's seat still vacant, we shuffled the cards and dealt them out at once. Sure enough, Rika and Stoko carefully focused on scribbling down notes. Meanwhile, I pretended to take notes while revealing my hand to Reina under my desk. Satoko, Reina, pistol, knife, cemetery, storage shed. Means the possibility of any of the other cards being the answer was high. Reina quickly jabbed me with her elbow. What are you laughing about, Keiichi? It's really creepy. Oops, this is not the time to be laughing. I need to come up with a good excuse. Well, I'm just imagining you guys actually committing these crimes. I'm not following. That doesn't sound pleasant at all. Stoko, don't fall for it. Keiichi's probably trying to mislead you. Stoko and Rika laughed together with an oh ho ho and a nipa. Meanwhile, Reina was beside me wiping away her cold sweat. I'm in second place, so I'll start. It's Reina, pistol, attic. Oh, I have it. Me too. I've got one too. Is that so? Then that's all of them. That confirms the location, but the weapon is still unclear. Alright, I wonder if now's the time to go for it? I'm up next. Then it's Rika, ashtray, lounge. I have it. Me too. Not me. I see. Means it's not that one, right? Wait, hold on. I looked through my notes, then bam, it came to me. Alright, I know the killer. Huh? Already? Keiichi, nobody likes men who are too fast. I thrust my finger up towards the heavens, then shouted out the name of the weapon, the killer, and the location. The killer is Mion, with the axe, in the library. Well? I pulled the answer cards out of the box to verify my solution. Keiichi, you're right. No way it was actually Mion. Axe isn't a good weapon either. Poison really is the way to go. It's slow and painful. Rika, you have some interesting hobbies. Still, you've got an awfully soft face while saying some hard things. Reina and I continued carrying out a plan, but Rika and Satoko weren't stupid. We made good progress after a while, trading wins between us, but we had to start being more cautious. Then, finally, I was taken by surprise. I thought Satoko was taking notes, but she was actually holding a small handheld mirror under the desk, and I noticed Rika's sharp gaze staring straight at me through the mirror. I tried to hide our cheating, but it was already too late. Oh my, so the two of you really stooped to something like that? Me, that's how you're going to play it. We've got ideas of our own. Rika and Satoko looked at each other and smiled. From that point on, it was a battle between Team Keiichi and Reina and Team Satoko and Rika, duking it out in a coordinated attack. Love these sound effects. Then, nearly an hour later, while we were in the middle of our 13th game, Mion finally came back. What's the matter, Mion? Reina must have noticed something for her to ask that. Now that she mentioned it, something does look odd about Mion. It's like she has no energy. Huh? No, it's nothing. Mion responded as such, but her expression made it clear she wasn't feeling alright. But the next moment... What? What is this? Unsurprisingly, since Mion was out, the four of us managed to collect an enormous number of points in her absence. Mion must have realised the moment she saw the score sheet. No matter how hard she tries, it will be impossible for her to turn her point deficit around. And here I was planning to make someone else go shopping at my place today. The moment Mion slumped down to her seat, a note hanging from her pocket fell out. So I picked it up and took a look. Huh? Wow, it's a lot of stuff written down. 2 servings of sofu, shampoo and conditioner, cooking wine. What is this? It says gopher penalty. This was all a ploy to make us run errands for you. Mion let out a hee-hee laugh. You intentionally chose this game just to make us do your chores. But when I looked at Mion, I was relieved to see that she was acting like her usual self. Still, I felt a little bad that she was given the penalty when she wasn't even here. But, alright Mion, here's Reina's shopping list. Thanks. Wait, all this time I spent worrying about this game, you were sitting there writing a shopping list? We made our own list too. Better luck next time, meep. Even though it was such a close race, they had the time to make a list too. I felt cold sweat dripping down my back. You're all demons. See you later, Keiichi. Reina spun around in a swooshing motion and started walking towards her house. Come on now, you're just imitating Mion. We'd been walking at a swift pace for a while, and somewhere along the way Reina started skipping. Watch your step, Reina. Don't fall. I'll be fine. Not the answer I was looking for. After club activities wrapped up, Reina and I walked home from school together. She seemed in especially high spirits today. This was the first time she ever claimed first place in a logic game. But even so, she looked as happy as a kid at a festival. And that smile on her face as she handed me on that shopping list, like she was finally getting even for a long-standing grudge, and did so by saying thanks, with the thunder crackling in the background. That's how it felt, anyway. I was still thinking those pointless thoughts as I reached my house. I put my hand on the doorknob and, it won't open. Oh, nobody's home. Mum and Dad left to do something for Dad's work. I pulled the key with the keychain out of my pocket, intending to unlock the door. Then I slid it in the keyhole, gave it a turn, and pushed the front door open. The house felt quiet and empty with nobody inside. It's like the moment people step out of a house, it starts to feel like an abandoned house. I slipped my shoes off, then made my way upstairs. I sat my bag down inside my room and thought about what to do. When I was lying on the bed, my stomach started to growl. Was trying to remember which... So I think I mentioned this earlier. So this game, Taraimawashi, is basically a retelling primarily of Onikakushi, the first game in the series, but it's involves elements of Higurashi and Taraimawashi as well, the other two question arcs. So it's kind of an alternate. I guess it's almost like an alternate question arc that explores a different pathway of action. So there's these like story beats, and I'm like trying to work out which one they came from. I remember them playing, pardon me, Cleo in an earlier game, but I cannot remember which one. Keiichi being unable to cook dinner for himself comes from Taraimawashi. I remember that one. I need to get something before dinner time. So I made my way downstairs and around to the kitchen, then started randomly opening the fridge and cabinet doors. Nothing. 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 No matter where I looked, I couldn't find anything to eat. My shoulders slumped, and I let out a deep sigh. You know, shouldn't parents leave something for their kids when they go out? I complained about that before, but Mum said something flippant like, you can just buy anything from anywhere, and took that as an excuse not to make anything. Yeah, that's right, but being left with nothing at all is still annoying. Humans are selfish creatures. Can Mion just get over here already? I spoke softly to myself. Why? Because you wouldn't just let me say something like that. Mion came in last, by far, in today's club activity. Naturally, Reina and I were tied for first place. Eventually, Reina gave me on her shopping list. Then she approached me as though she were about to devour me. If I'm shopping for 1 or 2 people together, it makes no difference. Well, say something already. Just tell me, what do you want me to buy? It's the first time someone in my life had threatened to buy me something, but it couldn't be helped, so I gave her my request. At that moment, Mion simply tilted her head. That's it? That's all? Nothing besides that? I heard it over and over. Yes, that's fine. Hurry up and buy it. I'm getting hungry. Just as I was about to shout that, when I heard the doorbell, I headed over to the entrance and opened the door to find Mion. All right, here you go. Nice timing. Keiichi, you were about to look up towards the heavens and shout, hurry up and buy it, Mion, weren't you? How did you know? Just as I thought. What gave you that idea, Mion? Because I could hear you, that's why. Seriously? Mion cackled to herself as the panicked, that can't be true look started to show on my face. She got me. Anyway, why'd you ask me to get this for you? And just a single box at that? Her eyes fixated on the one thing I asked her to buy, cup noodles. Specifically the big name variety, Deka cup, tonkatsu pork and ginger flavour. What's it to you? It's my favourite kind. I was planning to have it for dinner tonight. Huh? This is supposed to be your dinner? Yeah, Mum is out today. What? In that case, would you like me to make something? You? You can cook, Mion? How rude. Don't underestimate this old man. I'm more than capable of cooking. Mion put her hands on her hips as she mouthed off at me. But I couldn't believe it. With that face and that get-up, it couldn't be true. Why are you making that face? Because I'm just not seeing it. I'll have to show you sometime. And when that day arrives, you'll be left speechless. I'm looking forward to it. Then Mion grabbed her bags as she delivered that answer with a smile. Both her hands were full with huge shopping bags. Wow, it's a massive load of stuff. I took a quick look at the contents. 500 grams of pork, 2 packs of eggs, 5 servings of tofu, 4 milk cartons, 1.8 litres of soy sauce, and a whole arseload of vegetables. Looking a bit more closely, I noticed a variety of spice bottles. Mion pulled Reina's shopping list out of her pocket and started reading out the names of the spices. For bittering and colouring spices, I've got saffron, paprika, turmeric, and gardenia, I think. And then for pungent spice, I've got pepper, red pepper, wasabi, and mustard. And for aromatic spice, I've got clove, mint, thyme, rosemary, sage, basil, and a whole bunch of others. Each time she listed a name, I compared it to the label on a vial. Then, all the way on the bottom of the bag, I found an entire watermelon. Because Reina said she wanted to try making authentic dishes next time, didn't she? Even if she said that, aren't there limits to these things? Just what was she planning to make? Authentic curry or Italian cuisine? Seems more like harassment to me. But it wasn't just the one bag. Mion had another equally daunting shopping list filling another bag. Mion, you carried all this here? That's right. That's the penalty after all. I looked Mion in the eyes, and I could see the toll the weight was taking on her arms. She had a calm look on her face, but I could see the streaks of the muscle running down her neck and along both her arms, sapping her of all her strength. All right, Keiichi. See you tomorrow. Mion looked back and started clumsily walking down the path. Felt like the earth was bending under the extreme weight. Mion, wait. I suddenly started running over to her. Oh, hold on. What's wrong? I've got time to kill anyway, so I'll help you carry those. As soon as I said that, I grabbed one of the shopping bags, back in my room, and immediately started walking. Oh, that's okay. Really, I'm okay. Hold on. I figured she would shoot me down, so I had to start walking without asking permission. Like a cat, I see a bug in my room, I get completely distracted. I'm just like, whap, 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 whap. Eventually, I could hear Mion's footsteps approaching me from behind. Then, once she cuddled up to me, she walked beside me and smiled. Thanks. Huh? I'm sure you realise, they're a bit heavy. Mion was being surprisingly amicable. Normally she would have flat out refused, but there was clearly something different about her today. It was like her usual tomboy demeanour had vanished or something. Our shadows moved side by side as we walked down the sunny road. The cries of the Higurashi echoed all around us. What's going on, Mion? It was bugging me, so I decided to ask more directly. Huh? What are you talking about? Well, you seem less energetic than usual. Not really. Mion muttered that, then we returned to walking in silence, and then... Hey, what is it? I opened my mouth again to ask about the subject that had been bothering me all day. You got called out while we were in the middle of our club activity, right? So who came to visit you? Oh, right, that's... one. When she came back, she seemed completely drained. Raina noticed it too and even asked Mion about it. It's been bothering me too for a while now. By any chance, was it about last night? The moment I said that, Mion took a deep breath and stopped. She turned to look around, then looked straight at me. Is the spooky eyes again? Her eyes lit up just like that when she was asking Shion about a conversation on the night of the Tanagashi. About last night? Huh? What's this about last night? I finished the moment her eyes started glaring at me. The intensity felt like it was strangling me. Fear can sometimes drive people to do completely illogical things when faced with an opponent whose power vastly surpasses their own. So I recklessly opened my mouth again and kept asking. You know, I'm wondering if maybe something happened after the festival. I mean, there's that curse that causes people to die or go missing, so I've heard. Mion didn't say anything at all. Maybe she was feeling frustrated, deep in the bottom of her heart. It was a rather naive and childish question, but she continued, gazing intently at me. Who told you that? Huh? Who told you that? I struggled to answer her. Who was it? Who was it? Both of Mion's eyes were open incredibly wide. Mion released her grip on the shopping bag and it slammed down to the ground. The contents of the bag spilled out and scattered across the street. For a moment, it felt like the world stopped moving, and then a damp breeze blew a fishy aroma all around. Oh, sorry. Mion looked surprised when she finally noticed. Then she crouched down in the street and started collecting the scattered contents from the bag. It's all right. I helped Mion gather the groceries she dropped. Meanwhile, Mion idly said what she was already certain of. It was Shion, wasn't it? I couldn't say anything to the contrary. I see. I thought so. She should have kept her mouth shut. She spit out those words like a curse. Mion, Shion wasn't really... But I couldn't figure out what else to say. Away. All of a sudden, Mion said something, but it was too quiet for me to hear. I turned to look straight towards Mion, and although she was still looking downwards, I could see her mouth moving. What is it? Oh my god, hiccups. Mion, what are you saying? Stay away from Shion. The weight of those words crushed me. In a flash, the distance between our faces shrank, and Mion's sharp eyes were clearly visible. Felt like I was trapped by an ominous shroud of darkness. I couldn't move. You better keep your distance from Shion. I nodded to her, terrified, but I couldn't say anything. Suddenly, her eyes turned back to normal. The next moment, she was cackling out loud. Keiichi. Huh? Just look at you. I finally noticed I'd fallen back onto my butt and was sitting in the middle of the road. How undignified. You're lying there like a frog. frog? Like a frog flipped over on its back. Mion was rolling with laughter. This was the normal Mion, right? We gathered all the groceries that had spilled out, then resumed our walk towards Raina's house. After walking for a while, Mion began speaking in a quiet voice. Keiichi, you're my friend, right? Mion turned to me and smiled after saying that, then continued. Once things have calmed down, I'll tell you everything. I promise. So, try to stay away from Shion. Oh, right. I couldn't say anything more. When she saw that, Mion looked downwards, hiding her expression. Shion takes her pranks too far, but if she keeps poking around, I guess it can't be helped. It can't be helped? As she said that, it felt like her shadow was creeping ever closer. The cry of the Higurashi echoed around me once again. Very spooky. That's right, I bought that new manga recently. I looked around my room, hoping to find where I left it. If Mum was around, she'd probably nag me, saying, "You're reading manga again? Go study." Manga is a Japanese tradition, harkening back to the world of work of Utamaro and Hiroshige. But even if I tried explaining that to her, she wouldn't listen. It's part of Japanese culture. I'm confident that overseas markets will benefit from the introduction of Japanese manga, wink. Felt like the time for that isn't far off. I was absent-mindedly pondering those trivial thoughts. I just got home a little while ago. I was starting to feel sorry for Mion after the penalty she got stuck with, so I helped her carry half the bags. We walked through Hinamizawa side by side, carrying those huge shopping bags. We carried the bags to Reina's house, but she was out on an errand. I was hoping for a chance to show Reina the enormous bags Mion was carrying and say, "Please, ask her a little more," but it seems we missed our opportunity for that. After that, I walked Mion back to the Sonozaki house, then came home. However, on the way to Reina's house, I approached the subject of what happened after the festival. It was careless of me. In other words, I was asking Mion about the curse, the topic I knew she had no interest in discussing. Admittedly, I never stopped being interested in the story, not since the night of the festival, when I spoke with Shion along the riverside and she told me about the victims so far. But there's nothing admirable about asking someone about a topic they'd rather not discuss. But even so, I focused on the last thing Mion said. She seemed especially upset that I had heard about the curse from Shion. What on earth did she mean by that? Shion takes her pranks too far, but if I keep poking around, I guess it can't be helped. What prank was she referring to? What was Shion poking around in? Whoa, this background audio is creepy. When I looked at Mion's shadow, it felt like I could see the heat radiating out of her. But was that just my imagination? The cries of the Higurashi continued to ring loud, and only compounded my insecurity. Suddenly, I noticed the bag from the bookstore laying on its side under my desk. Ah, that's the one I just bought. It's finally time for me to have some alone time, reading my favourite manga. I heard the phone ringing downstairs. I debated if I should just keep reading. Scratched the back of my head while thinking it over, then closed the book. Yes, hello? Hello, is that you, Keiichi? It's Mion. It was Mion, who I'd only just parted with. Were you in the middle of something just now? Even if she asked, I didn't necessarily have to tell her. Were you reading manga? Huh? New issue just came out. Have you read it yet? How did she know all that? I immediately started looking all around me. Now I bet you're restlessly looking around, Keiichi. She watching me from somewhere? It's impossible. Felt irritated and embarrassed. What do you want? Did you call just to make fun of me? Oh, did I upset you? Sorry, I was just joking around. I guess I was being a little blunt there. Anyway, can we meet up soon? What for? Didn't we just meet up a little while ago? A little while ago? What's the deal? We spent all that time carrying those shopping bags, walking to Reina's house, and then to your house, didn't we? I didn't expect them to be so heavy. Oh, right. What is it then? You want to see me that much? I tried to joke around with her, but for some reason, Mia didn't respond with a comeback like usual. She just remained silent. Mion? Is something wrong? No, it's nothing. But she seemed unusually ill-tempered. Was she really feeling okay? Then what's up? Did you have something to talk about? Sorry, I can't really say over the phone. Was it something so important that she didn't feel comfortable discussing it on the phone? Thought about what kind of topics she wouldn't want to talk about over the phone and could only think of one. I debated if it would be better not to say anything, but in the end I spoke up. By any chance is it about the curse? She fell silent for a moment. What if it was? Even if she said yes, what was I expecting? You don't want to hear about it? Be lying if I said I didn't want to hear it. But I thought Mion didn't want to talk about it. So why did she suddenly change her mind? Sorry, did something happen to her? If you don't want to, that's fine. I won't force you. Hold on, I never said that I didn't want to talk about it. Still, then meet me at the Okonomiya library. Mion met the library with an axe. I had no choice but to reply, okay. I felt an invisible but overbearing power coming from the other side of the receiver. I flew off on my bike, and as I pedalled my bike, I kept thinking, but why go to all the trouble of meeting at the Okonomiya library? Is it something we can't discuss around here? You planning to reveal some deep, dark secret? The more I thought about it, the more suspicious I started to feel. When I arrived at the library, Mion was waiting for me at the entrance. Keiichi. I waved in response to Mion, then fixated on what she was wearing. What is it? Something wrong? No, it's nothing. She was dressed in her casual clothes, but aside from that, she didn't look any different. Mion, did you already finish making dinner? Mion looked puzzled for a moment. Why do you ask? Since she did all that shopping earlier, I figured she'd make something substantial for dinner tonight. Right, I finished that up and came out here. She spoke lightly, like it was no big deal, but was it really possible for her to make dinner that fast? My mum is pretty good at cooking too, but even with expert skill level, that volume of raw materials would require an impossibly large amount of effort to prepare. It's not like that. There are a lot of ingredients, but only 2 of us live there, me and Granny. Come to think of it, she did say something like that a while ago. So you wanted to talk about something? I looked straight at Mion. Yeah, it's just as you thought, Keiichi. It's about the curse of Ayashiro-sama. A cold breeze suddenly blew past, and a cold light came pouring out of Mion's eyes, with an intense beastly light hiding underneath, just like when we were walking home together earlier. I continued staring at Mion. Why did she suddenly decide to talk about it if she hated the subject so much? Not sure if Mion was frustrated with my lack of response. She furrowed her brow like she was in a bad mood. We don't have to if you don't want to. My attitude seemed to be upsetting her. She was looking more and more fed up. No, it's just that you seemed so opposed to talking about it. Did something happen? Not really. If you don't want to hear it, that's okay. Mion's expression grew more grim, like I'd hurt her feelings. There's no reason not to hear it. I still had no idea what was going on with Mion, but frankly, I was glad she was willing to talk about it. And more than anything, I was deeply interested in learning more about those frightening events. Wait, Mion. Huh? Do you want to hear it or not? Her eyes were cold, like she was looking down on me. I began to sulk the moment I saw those eyes. Come this far. Can't come up back now, can I? Of course I want to hear it. That's why I came all the way out here. Then, let's talk inside. Mion led the way as we entered the library. The lounge looked vacant, so we took a seat in the corner. Mion surveyed the area, once again, to make sure nobody else was around, then turned to me. I'm never going to say any of this again, so listen carefully. A chill ran through me. My blood froze over as she stared into me. So I can't ask any follow-up questions? I'd rather you not. I don't want this turning into an investigation. Hold on, Mion. What do you mean by investigation? I don't want you prying into anything you heard here, or asking anyone else about it. I wanted to speak up, but I held back. After all, responding to questions seemed simple enough, but I got the feeling there would be details to call attention to during the story. Surely some questions would arise during the hour or so she's going to spend telling me the story. At any rate, even if I'm not allowed to question people about it, there are probably written materials recorded somewhere that I could research. Plus, I get the feeling that I need to learn about this in order to properly become part of this village. I'm gonna sneeze. Pardon me. Big sneezes. Thinking about it, human beings are simple creatures with an innate interest in matters like this. What is still hidden? What on earth are they trying to hide? I understand. I promise. No matter what you tell me, I'll never investigate it any further, and I certainly won't ask anyone about it. Is that sufficient? Mion nodded in agreement. Come to think of it, that was the second time today I made a promise to Mion. I promised to stay away from Shion, and then I promised not to investigate the story any further. Was there some contradiction between the two, or an inconsistency? So you wanted to talk about the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Does that mean something happened? Something happened again this year? Mion carefully looked into my eyes, then slowly began to speak. Well, on the night of the Taraimawashi festival, Tomitake apparently died. Huh? Indeed, there's no mistaking it. He's dead. I heard it from Granny. My mind went blank. Huh? What? What happened to Tomitake? I promised not to ask any questions, so I repeated it over and over inside my head. What happened to Tomitake? That question repeated over and over inside my head, throbbing at the back of my ears. I could hear it bouncing back and forth, echoing and echoing. What happened to Tomitake? Suddenly, Mion put a hand on my shoulder. Even though that caused my entire body to stiffen, Mion moved her face closer and continued. Keiichi, you understand what that means, don't you? What was she getting at? I didn't understand. Why did he die? What killed him? Was there a reason for it? Mion said that he died on the day of Taraimawashi. So it's this year's curse of Oyashiro-sama. It happened again. That's right. It happened. Tomitake died. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. Can't just say something like that so coldly, like it was nothing. Don't you remember our fun parting farewell? How can you remain calm while saying that? Even so, what was the meaning of this? What the hell happened? Indeed, my head was still shaking from all the questions swirling around inside, but Mion started giving me more details about the incident involving Tomitake. He was first discovered by a police officer who just finished up guard duty at the festival and was about to head home. It was late at night, around 5 minutes before midnight. The location was around the point where the road to town started to turn into a paved road, near the end of the road, where it started sloping downhill. The car's headlights were the only source of light in the area, aside from the moonlight. I already knew that. There were hardly any streetlights in the area. They suddenly noticed a corpse when the headlights revealed it. If the car hadn't driven by, it probably wouldn't have been discovered until morning. It must have been pure coincidence that they found Tomitake. Just imagining it creeped me out. Tomitake lying down in the road in the puddle of blood, with blood and filth spread all across the asphalt. The police initially suspected that he was hit by a car, but when they went to check if he was still alive, they immediately noticed something peculiar. His throat was completely torn open. With a knife? Sorry, game's misbehaving. Even though I wanted to say that, my welling disgust kept me from speaking up. Even so, my thoughts were clearly conveyed. Mion had been averting her gaze, but she suddenly looked up at me. With his own nails. Nails? What? The nails on his fingertips. Scrape, 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 scrape. Like that. Ew. Don't think that came across at all on mic, but definitely came across to me. Scraping? That awful sound echoed around in my head. Scrape, scrape. There we go. Fully work. So, he wasn't murdered. It was suicide? The police had reached the same conclusion. I quietly thought it over. Shortly after parting with us, Tomitake started scratching his throat with his own fingernails. He scratched it so hard he tore his throat apart. Even after we broke the skin and blood came pouring out, he still wouldn't stop, scraping and scraping. His nails were almost entirely peeled off. I have to say, I'm genuinely and really glad that we're back to, we've left like conspiracy land and we're back to just like pure horror land. Where even if like I know the reason for the things that are happening because I know the answer arcs, it's still really horrific. scraping away with incredible force, and scraping even more, and then scraping at his veins and arteries. Pop, scrape. Spraying blood all around him. Keiji is very empathetic. He's got big imagination. Blood pouring out of his mouth, vomiting it out, and then he fell to the ground, having convulsions, suffocating. Despite the particularly abnormal cause of death, there were no traces of any drugs in his body. It wasn't drug-induced. Leon calmly shook her head in response. But could he really have committed suicide? I'd never heard of anything like this. It's not normal. It's not a normal way to die. What is there to even say about a death so mysterious? Amongst all the deaths in the past 5 years, this is the one that most resembles a curse. The surrounding area was unusual too. A piece of lumber was laying by the corpse's feet. Traces of his blood were found on the piece of wood, and the scar tissue on his hand matched the square shape of the lumber. There were signs that the surrounding trees and guardrail were struck with it. Tomatake's bloodstains were scattered all around them. So what does that mean? Even as Tomatake was clawing at his throat with his nails, while blood was pouring out and dripping all over him, he was swinging a piece of lumber around with his other hand for some reason. Was he trying to defend himself from someone? Mion silently nodded to me. On top of that, there were several scars spread across his body. Seems like Tomatake was assaulted by someone. In fact, it was probably several people. Tomatake was surrounded by people and fought back. He tried running down the dimly lit road, but once it became clear that he couldn't escape, he fought back using that piece of lumber. All the while, he was deliriously scratching at his throat, scraping and scraping. And then he died. My eyes, again. The silence felt like it would go on forever. Then Mion suddenly lifted the heavy curtain of silence, with another inconceivable thing to say. Thanks to that, all of us are being investigated as suspects. She said that quietly. Throat hurts. Suspects? What? Who? What? Why? After hearing the whole story about Tomatake's horrific death, hearing that follow-up comment with no context had me doubting my ears. The police believe that the Sonozaki family has been pulling the strings behind the scenes for all the incidents up until now, because all of the victims on the night of Watanagashi were causing trouble for the Sonozaki family. Come to think of it, all of the incidents so far did benefit the Sonozaki family. Throughout Hinamizawa's history, all the victims so far have been people connected to the dam wall. Happens to an enemy every year on the day of Watanagashi. That alone is enough to draw suspicion. Thinking back on it, first it was the dam construction manager, next the villagers who supported the dam. People who supported the construction project were dying mysteriously, one after another. Cause of death varied, but the victims were all supporters. They were all opponents of the Sonozaki family. There was no solid evidence, certainly rumours and circumstantial evidence to support it, but it certainly seemed difficult to just laugh it off. But hold on, what about the shrine priest and his wife who were next to die? Aren't they only remotely connected to the Sonozaki family? Right, only remotely. I suddenly noticed a hint of sadness in Mion's eyes, but I could see the cold light of malediction in there as well. Next is the housewife who was beaten to death. I already knew that story. Shion told me about the incident. Afterwards, a boy from that family went missing, right? That boy actually went to the same school as us until last year. His name was Satoshi Hojo. We were in the same class. Satoko's older brother. The air around me suddenly grew thin. My lips were quivering. I felt like a goldfish separated from the fishbowl, desperately struggling to breathe. Satoko's grief-stricken eyes flashed before me, then dissipated. Unbelievable. Satoko lost her brother to the curse? Even the people close to me are being caught up in this so-called curse? I began to tremble. My head was rapidly spinning. Hold on. Tomatake has an even weaker connection. He's not related to the dam conflict at all. Isn't it strange for an outsider to be killed for no reason? Indeed. At first, the targets were predominantly related to the dam construction project, but as time went on, the victims started getting less and less connected to the conflict. So, in other words, it doesn't matter if you're related to the dam project or not, as long as you're an enemy of the Sonozaki family. It's possible that Satoshi was an enemy of the Sonozaki family too. Maybe he learned one of their secrets or something like that, and so he had to be eliminated. A chill ran down my spine. I guess it's also that, outsiders it wouldn't explain why Satoshi was vanished, given that he's always lived there, but his aunt was an outsider. She wasn't even like born in Hinamizawa, she was completely outside, and the two who disappeared this time, even though one of them's been living in Hinamizawa for a while, the other one is, Tomitake is definitely an outsider. I hadn't been able to speak up for a while now. I could barely even bring myself to swallow the spit in the back of my throat. Even after I managed to swallow it, the sound of the gulp echoed inside my ears. False accusations, baseless suspicion, and outrageous theories. It's a Friday night for me. But is it really a false accusation? Is it so baseless? I stared intently at Mion, but she immediately averted her gaze. Was Satoshi erased because he learned something he shouldn't know? Could Tomitake's death have something to do with it, too? And what about me? Am I starting to become a nuisance for the Samazaki family? Why are you telling me all this? I wanted you to understand why it's so difficult to talk about this, but you absolutely must keep this a secret from the other club members. Why keep it secret? Everyone is really sensitive when it comes to the curse, so don't let that come back to bite you, okay? I responded with a vague nod. Indeed, it was pretty clear from the atmosphere that everyone wanted to avoid the topic, but I especially don't want you bringing it up in front of Satoko. That seemed obvious. Nobody would want to talk about a curse that took their brother away from them. Still. Got it? So, everything we've discussed here must absolutely remain a secret from everyone. If you break that promise, I'm sure you'll regret it, Keiichi. Mion's eyes radiated like a sword made of ice. A chill ran through me. There was nothing I could do to defend against her gaze. Got it. I'll keep everything we discussed here to myself. I promise. I swear it. Just then, I heard the announcement that it was closing time. Mion and I made our way out of the library. This old man needs to go meet up with some family members now. After saying that, Mion and I waved to each other in front of the library, then started walking in opposite directions. The next moment, I heard a familiar voice calling out to me. Keiichi! I spun around in a flash. Reina was sitting on her bike. The basket on her bike was full of shopping bags. What are you doing all the way out here? Well, I thought it'd be nice to visit the library once in a while. Wow! What's with that face? It's a nice, cool place to hang out, isn't it? Plus, it's free. That's true. Anyway, see you tomorrow. I wanted to get out of here as soon as possible, so I tried heading towards the bike rack, but Reina moved in front to block me. Why are you in such a hurry? I'm not in a hurry or anything. Really? Really? Just thought I should head home, since it's starting to get dark. Then, should we go together? She lightly tilted her head and looked me straight in the eyes. I could clearly see the suspicion in her eyes. What is it? She was just quietly looking at me, but somehow it made me feel uncomfortable. Spooky eyes for Reina scene. What were you doing at the library? Studying. I was studying. I quietly looked in the direction of the library as I said that. Mion was already long gone. My conversation with Mion was still nagging at me. What was she thinking, sharing such serious secrets with me? Mion seemed concerned that the police suspected her. That much was fine. I'd do whatever I could to help her, but even so, if you could get eliminated in the name of the curse for the crime of learning something better left unknown, something the Samazaki family didn't want people knowing, then would I be the next one? Hey, Keiichi, weren't you here with someone? With someone? Huh? It just seemed like you were here with someone earlier. I came alone. Really? Really? But what? I thought I saw a girl with long hair standing next to you. She saw that? In that case, my deceit was all for naught. So I started thinking. Right, that was the person sitting next to me. Is that so? Reina carefully looked me up and down. What is it? I was just thinking, even if you were sitting together, why would the two of you walk out together? It was just coincidence that we happened to walk out at the same time. Liar. Spooky eyes. Keiichi, you've known that girl for a while, haven't you? How did you know? Because you were acting so carefree around her, Keiichi. I'm always acting carefree. But in this case, it wouldn't make sense. What wouldn't make sense? Would you really be acting so carefree around a complete stranger? I was shocked. After all, Keiichi, you're far too self-conscious for that. You tend to get shaky around people you don't know. Indeed, I do have some talking to people that I haven't met before. Also, Keiichi, your nose tends to twitch when you're telling a lie. But I held my hand to my nose. Did I really do that? Then Reina suddenly started giggling. Gotcha! Huh? She got me. Someone you knew after all, wasn't it? Could hardly make a sound in response, so as a last resort. Actually, she's the same age as me, so it was easy to get conversation going, and we recently became friends. I took my lie even further. She from Oknomiya? I nodded in response to Reina's question. I believe so. What school is she in? I don't know the middle schools in Oknomiya. Desperately thought it over and tried to find something to say. Well, she never told me. You never asked what school she goes to? Huh, isn't that strange? Reina unnaturally tilted her head to the side. Then she looked at me with a big grin. That's a lie, I'm sure of it. I finally realised that Reina had me completely ensnared in her trap. But I still couldn't tell her that I was with Mion. Got it? So everything we've discussed here absolutely must remain a secret from everyone. If you break that promise, I'm sure you'll regret it, Keiichi. My promise to Mion was still echoing in the back of my head. My face must look painfully distorted. I was desperately thinking of how to get out of here. Then Reina suddenly burst out laughing. Keiichi, I'm just joking around. Bang, she gave me a good hard pat on the shoulder. What? Could it be love at first sight? Huh? No. Okay, I understand. I won't pry any further. Was she implying? But it's a little unexpected, Keiichi. Unexpected? What? So unexpected? It's alright. Reina won't tell anyone. Reina let out one more laugh as she straddled her bike, then smiled while driving off. Hey, Reina, hold on. I rushed over to my bike. Then we pedalled our bikes towards Hinamizawa together. Reina continued laughing and making fun of me along the way. At any rate, I somehow managed to succeed in keeping my secret. But no matter how loud Reina was talking and laughing, I could still hear the word curse ringing inside my head. The entire time I spent riding my bike home, I was filled with regret. I wish Mion had never told me that story. I'm torn. I want to do the next chapter, but I'm also really tired. Well, I thought that was a chapter break, but it isn't, so never mind. Keep going, I guess. The classroom felt quiet all morning. Was that really the case, or did it just feel that way since Mion wasn't here today? I wasn't really sure. Mion always has a strong presence, there's no doubt about it, but regardless, she's absent today. Apparently she caught a particularly stubborn cold. Club activities are usually suspended any time Mion is out. However, since she'd been out for a few days, we'd eventually started club activities up again. Everyone loves club activities. Everyone was thinking the same thing, that we wanted to hear Mion making a ruckus again as soon as possible. With Mion out, my chances of victory should have been much higher, but I've been losing a lot recently. I just couldn't concentrate. I kept thinking about Mion, and that extended beyond just club activities too. That feeling has plagued me throughout my daily life for the past few days, and today was a particularly low point. For better or for worse, the stories I heard left me far too exhausted to endure a penalty. Today's punishment game will have to be postponed until next time. That's what allowed me to escape a penalty today. Once again, Reina and I had to head home alone. Even though Mion couldn't come, the Higurashi was still crying out like usual. No matter who's gone, the Higurashi will continue to cry out, no matter what happens the day before. Right? Isn't that the case? What's wrong, Keiichi? You got a vacant look in your eyes. Huh? Would you like to talk to Reina about it? You thinking about something? Something? Not really. You're worried about the next punishment game, are you? Something like that. Reina was bringing up unusually random topics. The conversation felt like Reina wasn't acting like herself. Maybe she was starting to get suspicious of me? Or maybe there was just no space left in my head to process Reina's small talk. Come to think of it, Keiichi, you've been losing a lot in our club activities these days. Something must have thrown me off my game. Then, pickles? Huh? What are you talking about? Keiichi, if you're feeling out of sorts, I'll try to cheer you up by bringing over some of those pickles. Because you told me before that they were delicious. Sure, thanks. Mion, or rather, the story I heard from Mion, has been stuck inside my head ever since I first heard it. Keiichi? Hey, Keiichi? Reina was still talking to me. She'd probably be disappointed in me if I ignore her, but I just couldn't bring myself to focus on that. By the way, have you heard anything about Tomitake? 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 Why would you ask that? A visitor came to Reina's house earlier. It was a police officer. Tomitake's story. Why would the police be asking Reina about that? What were they asking about? The moment I said that, my voice was drowned out by the sound of a car horn. A black car had stopped right beside Reina and I. The car's imposing presence had me feeling on edge. Alarm bells were going off inside my head. A middle-aged man emerged from the car. Pardon me. Sure. Keiichi Maebara, I presume? That's right. Who is this old guy? I've never met him before, but despite that, he already knew my name. The atmosphere clearly felt abnormal. When I studied his features, he looked like a pudgy but not quite overweight middle-aged man. He seemed the kind of person that could flex every muscle in his body in a crisis. His body seemed appropriate for an elderly judo master. At least, that's the impression I got. His voice sounded soft, but there was nothing sweet or carefree in his gaze. He was the type whose occupation was difficult to guess. No, I felt like there were a lot of occupations that would match his type. I have a few things to discuss. Would you mind? What's the best way to answer? Just then I felt a tug on my sleeve. It was Reina. We're supposed to go shopping together today. Oh. Reina's comment was so abrupt it took me a moment to figure out what she was getting at. But after Reina whispered that, I understood completely. This is him. When Reina said this is him, it was obvious she was referring to someone in particular. This must be the detective that visited Reina, and Reina was doing her best to get me away from him. Would it be better to stick with Reina and decline this man's request? Oh my, sounds like I'm being a bother. Not at all. Oh my, I'm terribly sorry. I'll try to wrap this up as soon as possible, okay? Sure, but what are you doing here? My name is Oishi, from the Okonomiya police station. I see. Mr. Oishi, is it? Have you heard any stories from the girl right next to you, Reina Ryugu? Nothing in particular, right, Reina? I haven't told him anything. I was specifically told not to discuss it with anyone. You're pretty sharp. You've been a big help. But I wonder if I'll hear the same story from Maebara over here. Would you please oblige? Does it have to be right now? We still need to go shopping, right? Right? Reina continued to pressure him. But despite his soft appearance, this Detective Oishi was still reluctant to give a yes or no answer. Ryugu, I understand how you feel, but can I borrow Maebara just for today? Is that alright, Maebara? Please. It seemed impossible to get away from this guy, so I gave Reina a subtle wink. Reina looked a bit uneasy, but she lightly nodded in response. Understood. I'm willing to talk. I'm sorry, Reina. You'll have to head home without me. Okay, I understand. See you tomorrow, okay? You've been a big help. Sorry to bother you, but this is business. Once Reina started heading home, I entered Mr. Oishi's car. It was nice and cool inside the car. In fact, it was rather cold. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play through to the end of this chapter whenever we get to the next tip section, and then, depending on how I feel and how late it is, I may finish stream early, and hopefully next week I will have more energy. Because I'm genuinely just really tired. Oh, I just want to go, lie down in bed, and I downloaded a new puzzle game onto my phone that's incredibly addictive, and wow. This must be a luxury car to have air conditioner like that. Maybe it's just my dad's car that doesn't have AC. Let me know if it gets too cold, alright? Because I like it particularly chilly. Sure. The conversation was progressing at Mr. Oishi's pace. I was a little annoyed, but I couldn't think of anything I could do to fight it. Pardon me for speaking to you so suddenly. Felt like this detective was able to read everything inside my heart. At this point, I was having trouble figuring out what kind of person he was, but I got the general impression that it would be best not to make an enemy of him. Oishi swiftly pulled a notebook out of his breast pocket and began flipping through it, then pulled out a photo sandwiched between the pages. It looked like a driver's license photo or something, and I could see the expressionless face of a man. Then I began to tremble, because I recognized that face. Please tell me if you know anything about this man. According to Reina Ryugyu, you're already acquainted with him, right, Mibara? That's Mr. Tomitake. Why would this detective come all this way to ask me about Tomitake? What was he trying to accomplish? Incidentally, this man disappeared on the night of the festival. Could you tell me about the last time you saw him? I last saw him on the night of the festival, but you haven't seen him since then? Right. Is that so? Mr. Oishi scribbled something in his notebook as he listened. I wonder what he's writing down. Are those investigation notes? So, Mibara, can you think of any reason why this man might have disappeared? No, I can't think of anything. Did anyone have a grudge against him? Maybe a rocky romantic relationship? Even if it's something completely mundane, I don't mind. Please, tell me something about this man. I heard he had a bit of a clingy personality and wasn't popular with the ladies. Maybe he was a bit of a stalker and that garnered some resentment. Tomitake isn't like that. Mr. Oishi was speaking far too brazenly of the deceased. You could only take false accusations so far. It felt like he was disrespecting a dead man, and I wanted to stand up for him. But I quickly regretted getting so fired up over nothing. No, I'm sorry. I got carried away. But honestly, everyone really liked Tomitake. I can't think of anyone who'd have a reason to kill him. Right then, Mr. Oishi raised an eyebrow. That moment, I realised that around what I'd just said. Oh my, how did you know that he was killed? I cursed myself, but it was far too late. I said he disappeared, but just now I clearly heard you say he was killed. My regret at slipping up must have been written all over my face. Oishi's face twisted into a grin. He seemed to have discerned something from my momentary reaction. It's true, Tomitake is dead, but this case is strictly confidential, so that information should only be available to the police, right? So who did you hear it from? I struggled to find the words to respond. Keiichi really suffers from, either he's really good at speaking or he is abysmal at speaking. Like, truly terrible. There's no way I can tell him that I heard it from Mion. The police were already starting to suspect her, so if I dropped her name here, the consequences could be disastrous. While I sat in silence, Mr. Oishi spoke up to move things along. Do you know Mion Sonozaki? Hearing Mion's name so suddenly got my blood pumping. Well, she's a classmate. I kept my answer ambiguous. I wanted to get out of here as soon as possible. I was completely overwhelmed by the desire to run away. That's not what I meant. I did my best to avoid getting upset or distracted in my answers, but Oishi kept staring into my heart with those sharp eyes. Despite the laughter in his voice, I could see no happiness in his eyes. Well then, what did you mean? Have you seen her true face? What I mean is, have you seen the kind of person that she truly is? I was momentarily stunned by the temperature difference as I stepped out of Oishi's car. Oishi told me about a Mion completely different from the Mion I knew. Started during the Dan conflict. She was taken into police custody several times for engaging in anti-Dan protest activities. It was among the village's earliest acts of rebellion against the Dan, and Mion was a leading official in the orchestration of resistance activities. The resistance activities were organised by the Sonozaki family. I heard that gangsters and organised crime groups were involved. Even more surprisingly, she'd essentially become the leader of the Sonozaki family. How far did their reach extend? Just listening to it had me shivering. Mion is the acting leader of the Sonozaki family. Mion is the ruler of this village. That was the same Mion who warned me about the dangers of the Sonozaki family. But Mion herself sat atop the family. So why? Why tell me that story at the library? Maybe she was trying to give me a warning? By personally revealing the dark side of the Sonozaki family to me? Was that her way of telling me that I could be eliminated if I started talking about these things, so I needed to stay quiet? Mion Sonozaki. I thought of her as a nice older friend who was good at being a leader. But in fact, just then, a chill ran down my spine. I wasn't sure if it was because of the air conditioning or something completely different. For now, I should just head home. I was in the mood to just crawl into bed, so I walked home at a brisk pace. All kinds of thoughts were spinning through my head as I made my way home. First and foremost, I wanted to feel a vague sense of security. Once my house came into view, I finally started to feel safe. Then, right as I was on the verge of putting my hand on the door, I heard a voice from behind. Keiichi. It was Reina calling out to me. Reina, what are you doing here? Reina didn't respond to my question. She just kept staring at me. Took you long enough, huh? She was supposed to head home right when I got into Oishi's car. But if Reina never went home, was she waiting for me in front of my house this whole time? That's right. Okay, that sound was someone outside. I've been waiting for you for a while now, Keiichi. It's been a long time since I got into Oishi's car. That's not normal. It's like she wasn't just waiting for me, but setting up an ambush. And for such a long time. Reina's behaviour is a bit abnormal, isn't it? Is that so? Sorry about that. Detective made it hard to get away. Oh really? How terrible. Reina was looking more and more upset, but I couldn't tell if her discomfort was stemming from Mr. Oishi or from me. Okay, that definitely is an outside sound. Did you need something? You've been waiting here for a while, huh? Keiichi, I was worried about you, so I waited here. The tone of Reina's voice was too hard, too cold, and too strong. It was frightening. Did I say something to offend her? Am I overthinking it? Reina seemed upset when I left her earlier. Was it just an extension of that? Somehow, I got the impression that she was unusually oversensitive. Might be best to avoid provoking her here. I looked downward as I pondered that, and then I noticed. Come to think of it, what did Reina even have to be worried about? Mr. Oishi's a detective, so he'd never do anything unsafe with me. Fuff. Then why was Reina so worried about me? If she's worried about me spending time with the detective, then it's not my safety she's worried about. So then, what on earth was she so worried about that she'd set up such an awkward ambush? Thanks, but you don't need to be so worried about me. What did he ask you? Reina looked me directly in the eyes with a sharp gaze. It was a strong signal, with the implication that escape was impossible. Was Reina trying to figure out what I told the detective? Why? It was startling. I couldn't possibly tell the police the things I shouldn't even know about the Sonozaki family. No way. Impossible. Thoughts I'd rather not think about kept swirling around inside my head. Why would Reina be so concerned about the Sonozaki family? The answer was obvious. Reina was working with Mion. If Mion asked Reina to keep an eye on me, then everything added up. Keiichi, no! This is super early in the game for Keiichi to start getting syndromed. A shiver started crawling up my back. I didn't say anything. Nothing that would make me an enemy of the Sonozaki family. Okay, I'm really sorry if you can hear... I've got my window like cracked open for a bit of fresh air, and I'm really sorry if you can hear engine sounds. I live next to or near 3 fairly busy roads, including like an actual overpass and then like a drawbridge style shipping bridge. And at this point in time of night, the traffic is less, so there tend to be people who like drag race inverted commas around and be really loud and annoying. Nothing that would make me an enemy of the Sonozaki family. I don't know anything unsavory in the first place. That's right, I didn't hear anything from Mion, so I don't know anything. So I'll be alright. Calm down, Keiichi Mahabara. Then I took a deep breath and responded to Reina in the lightest tone I could muster. Oh, he asked about the same thing you and I discussed earlier. About Tomitake? That's right. Aside from that, nothing in particular. Really? Keiichi, your face is turning blue. Are you alright? Reina sharpened her gaze and looked into my eyes. She doubted me. But I really didn't know anything, so there was no need to get upset. Calm down, everything's fine. Really? I'm fine though. And he really didn't ask about anything else. What about Mion? Mion? Why? God, this background audio is grey and also super spooky. Why would Reina suddenly drop Mion's name? Why would she bring Mion up right here, right now? Still think it's either best artwork. I do like the anime, really like super anime style artwork is okay, but I think this is the best. Personally. It feels the most accurate. Reina must be working with Mion after all. All that accomplished was making me even more worried. But that's alright. Even if Raina and Mion are in cahoots, I really didn't tell that detective anything. Mion? He didn't ask anything in particular about her. Oh really? Is that the truth? Because when I spoke with him, he asked about Mion. Raina gave me a suspicious glare as she said that. Her eyes seemed to pierce right through me. I hesitated for a moment to decide if I should tell her the truth. No, if I change my story now, it'll only make me look even more suspicious. I have no choice but to keep it going. Maybe because you're both girls and really close? Think so? You really think so? I wonder. But naturally, Raina didn't tell him anything. Is that so? I had no idea what she thought was so natural about that, but at any rate, I gave her a vague answer just to keep things moving. Besides, I'm not a traitor. Why would anyone think you're a traitor? True. Besides, I'm afraid of what would happen if I made Mion angry. Raina's laughter didn't sound cheerful at all. If anything, it sounded like ridicule, mocking me for being a coward. Was that a threat? Was Raina trying to force me to keep quiet? I didn't talk. I haven't said anything because I don't know anything. I have no connection to any of this. I was overwhelmed with a desire to refute Raina's assertions, but it felt so unnatural for me to come out and say something. Sorry, I just realised, we don't have, like, the chapter breaks. Where I feel like a chapter break should be is, where the chapter breaks would be if we were breaking between them, if that makes sense. Anyway, let's keep going. It wasn't just Mion. Raina was trying to intimidate me too. I should be extra careful to avoid doing anything unnecessary, right? Am I planning to be on guard at all times from now on? I don't want to think about what comes next. It's alright, as long as I can just get my fun everyday life back. I didn't want to think about anything else. I'm sorry I got so caught up in these strange things. Anyway, I should just hurry up and go inside. It's time for Raina to head home. Well, it's getting late. You should probably head home soon. Are you trying to run away? Raina's cold voice cut into me in a flash. What are you talking about? Alright. Well then, farewell. After saying that, in a terribly brusque voice, she quickly turned and started walking away. It felt like I was being abandoned. I was left dumbfounded. I wanted to say something to Raina, but I couldn't think of anything. It took all my strength just to watch her walk off from behind. Raina drifted further away, but after a few steps, she suddenly came to a halt and turned back to me. The frightening look in her eyes, full of doubt. Keiichi, you're feeling all right, aren't you? The strength of her tone had me at a loss for words. Raina's eyes were piercing straight into my heart. What would happen if I betrayed their trust? That's what Raina's eyes were telling me. Yeah, I'm fine. Then Raina turned her back once again and started heading home. After watching Raina completely disappear into the distance, I rushed into my house to escape. Thought. We have so far had brain just shorted out there. Mion and Shion be like the villains. Then we've had Keiichi. So Keiichi is usually affected, but specifically in Onikakushi and Taraimawashi, he was like more affected. Taraimawashi doesn't really have any of our kids like being a villain, but Keiichi is sort of amongst them put into the villain like trope. And we've also had Reina be the villain, but we've never had Sotoko or Rika be the villain. And the reason I say this is because A, I would love to see them be like spooky and villainous, and B, I really want to see what they look like with the spooky eyes. But also, like, given that it's, you know, the two youngest, I think that would be like super spooky. I am going to save. I've had the second wind, so I'm going to keep going. We'll see how long next week is. The chirping birds made me feel at ease. It was a refreshing morning. It's been a while since I last woke up feeling this way, but the story Mr. Oishi told me about Mion quickly filled my head. It was so unexpected, so unbelievable. A side of Mion I didn't know about. No, her true face, that she's committed crimes. The side of her from the past, when she organised radical activity on behalf of the damn opposition movement. It's not that weird to me, but the dark, powerful face of the true leader of the Sonozaki family. But beyond all that, Mion was my friend. I wanted to keep thinking that. I wonder if Mion feels the same way about me. That she was my friend from school. But that could very well just be her face on the surface. Maintaining her position as the head of the Sonozaki family should be her top priority. When I thought about it that way, nothing seemed out of place. On the contrary, it seemed only natural. The everyday act of going to school was starting to weigh heavily on me. Mion wasn't waiting at our usual meeting place, so Reina and I headed to school together. I'd started feeling anxious about Mion's absence, but at the same time, something inside me felt a little bit relieved, and I felt disgusted with myself for it. I might be letting the darkness inside me influence my attitude. Reina seemed to pick up on my demeanour and opted not to say anything. I can definitely feel where, like obviously it's primarily like a retelling of Onikakushi, but I can definitely tell where, like, the threads of the other two are coming in. I'm getting more Watanagashi than Taraimawashi, per se, but I think that's because, like, the major... Like, Watanagashi is not super different from Onikakushi. What happens here and there is slightly different, but the major difference is that Shion exists, right? But Taraimawashi is vastly different from the other two because it has this new character who comes in and creates a completely different story arc. So I'm seeing, like, aspects of Taraimawashi, but mostly it really seems like it's a sort of Onigashi, or like Watana Kakushi. So it would be Oni Wagashi, Nakashi, or Wata Kakushi. Ren and I walked nearly the whole way to school in silence. My senses fogged over as soon as I arrived at school. All right, it's Toko's traps. I welcomed the change of pace, so I threw the classroom door open without hesitation. Rattle, rattle. But I found no trap awaiting me. I should be glad that I made it through unscathed, but I felt a little disappointed. I exchanged greetings with everyone, then made my way to my seat. The ongoing conversations between my friends annoyed me somehow. Even though they were my friends, I put my head down and pretended to sleep. That way, I can get through this until the teacher arrives. I had a major lack of energy today. That's a depression. On a day like today, I'd be forgiven even if I really did fall asleep. But just then... Good morning, everyone. It was Mion, arriving at school a bit late. I guess her cold healed up. Though I was relieved to see her in good health, the story Mr. Oishi told me yesterday immediately came back to me. Did she even have a cold at all? I continued pretending to sleep when Mion came over, in an effort to avoid talking to her this morning. On the other hand, if I don't talk to her now, it will be that much harder to talk to her later. I was bothered by the contradiction between those two ideals. As a result, I did my best to keep sleeping until the teacher arrived. Keiichi, the teacher is coming. As soon as I heard Rika's voice, I quickly raised my head and tried to hide the thoughts running through my head. Then I thanked Rika for the assist. Thanks, Rika. I'm real sleepy today. But just as I was about to smile back at Rika, I tensed up when I looked into her eyes. Like, this is the closest we get to spooky eyes Rika, but I'd like to see with the, like, full spooky eyes. The glint in her eyes seemed to say, I know everything. Good morning, Keiichi. Mion, good morning. Why so glum? Not feeling well? Not really. It's nothing. Is that so? After that brief greeting, Mion returned to her seat. I felt a little relieved. I wasn't confident in my ability to speak to Mion right now. No, it was clear from the moment I thought that I lacked the ability to talk to Mion that something was wrong with me. Mion isn't a bad person. If someone was targeting me, they'd let me know by now, which meant that I wasn't being targeted, because nobody said anything to me. Chances of that seemed reasonably high. In fact, thinking about it from a purely rational standpoint, that line of thinking seemed most appropriate. Am I just overwhelmed with paranoia thanks to that weird guy? I can't let things stay like this. I absolutely need to do something. But even so, Mion is... Oh right, how about Rika? I've heard before that Rika is the head of the Furude family, one of the 3 families of Hinamizawa. Given her age, she may just be a figurehead in her position, but she's close enough in age to Mion that they might be privy to the same level of information. Thanks to all of Mion's supporters in the Sonzaki family, if anything unsettling was afoot in the village, I wouldn't be surprised if it reached her ears too. That ought to be the case. But despite that, Rika was still on friendly terms with me. However, I remembered the look in Rika's eyes earlier, gazing at me as if she knew everything. The elder villagers believed Rika possesses some mysterious power. What if Rika had another side to her too? Then, grave danger was rapidly approaching. Still, I have a few options available on how to approach this. I should check with Rika, to find out if I'm safe for now or not. I called out to Rika during break time. The 2 of us went out to a place where nobody would see us. It was perfect. Flashbacks! Rika kept watching me with a curious look on her face. Seeing that look made me feel a little more relaxed. My throat clumps up. This was the usual Rika. Did you need something, Keiichi? Rika, well, I see. Is this perhaps a sudden confession of love? No, it's not like that. That's too bad. Anyway, what is this about? I was thrown for a loop by Rika's banter, so she lightly tilted her head to the side as she asked that. I'm not being targeted by someone, am I? Being targeted? You, Keiichi? I've been hearing some rumours, and I was wondering if there was something to it. Because there are people in the village who probably still see me as an outsider. Sorry. I've got something stuck in my throat. Rika looked surprised and upset for a moment, but her expression quickly calmed down. Keiichi, did you do something bad? I haven't done anything. I swear I didn't do anything wrong. Then you'll be alright. Rika responded in a nonchalant tone. Was she angry? Or was she exasperated? Is that so? If you've done nothing wrong, then you shouldn't have to worry about something happening to you, right? Yeah, then that's good, but you're awfully persistent, Keiichi. Rika clearly wanted to bring our conversation to a close. Am I just being a hassle, or was it a mistake to discuss this with Rika? If it was the latter, it meant I just made a dangerous move. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? Keiichi, are you listening to me? Yeah, I'm listening. I am. It seemed like she was calling out to me for a while. They say that Rika possesses some mysterious divine power. If that's true, maybe she can even read my thoughts. What should I do? 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 I'll say it again. Keiichi, your name has never come up during the village conferences. Is that so? So you have nothing to worry about? Is that sufficient? Thank you. Thanks to you, I feel relieved. Rika Furude told me I was safe, as the head of the Furude family, and a member of the 3 families. If that's true, I should definitely be safe. However, something about Rika still seemed unusual. Her words seemed sharper than usual and more cold. Then, Rika seized the opportunity and spoke up in a terribly sullen voice. What had you so frightened in the first place, Keiichi? You're getting all worked up and getting the dogs mad for no reason. Woof, woof, woof. for a second. I want to check something super duper quickly. Okay, I see. That sounded like the usual Rika. Do I see? I do see. Cool, never mind, sorry about that. But right now I could still hear the danger lurking underneath those words. I don't want to see you like this, Keiichi, so farewell. In the end, I couldn't say anything. Once again, I came to realise that my actions hadn't solved anything. There was even a chance that my missteps had made matters worse. I've been running away. I've been running from Mion. Speaking with Mion won't necessarily solve my problems. In the worst case scenario, it could even put me in more danger. But it can't be helped. I need to talk to her directly. School had just let out. Mion needed to get to a part-time job, so she left the classroom on her own. I was a bit nervous, thinking about approaching her one-on-one, but given what we needed to discuss, it seemed ideal. So I chased after Mion. Hey, Mion. Keiichi, what's up? Mion responded exactly like usual. She turned back and our eyes met. I realised it had been a long time since we faced one another like this. I wonder if Mion feels the same way? Well, I was thinking we could walk home together. Well, it's been a long time since you've been the one to suggest that, Keiichi. Suppose. The chorus of the Higurashi rang out as we walked down the usual path side by side for the first time in ages. However, Mion looked different from usual. Her expression looked a bit stiff, but I wondered if it was all in my head. Even though I was able to catch Mion, what should I say? What can I ask? Indecision ran wild inside my head. Or, more precisely, I lacked the ability to reach a decision. The path with Mion was quickly reaching the splitting point. I needed to hurry up and say something. But all that impatience amounted to nothing. Mion confidently came over and poked me. So what is it? What's what? You went out of your way to chase after me, so I assume you have something to say. Am I wrong? There was no rebuke or venom in her voice, but I could feel the determination behind it, as if she were telling me it better be good. At this point, I had no choice but to be completely frank. Yeah, you're sharp. So what is it? Why did you keep me in the dark about the series of deaths on the night of Taraimawashi for so long? I carefully studied Mion's expression. How would she react to that? I didn't want to make you worry. Keiichi, it hasn't been long since you moved to Hinamizawa. I couldn't see anything suspicious in her explanation. Then why did you decide to tell me after the festival? Thought that if I kept quiet about it too long, you'd feel uneasy. This explanation too. Once again, there was nothing suspicious. In the end, whether I told you or not, it wouldn't be good either way. Mion tried to force a smile as she muttered that. Was it all in my head? Mion and I are having a completely ordinary conversation right now, and there's absolutely nothing suspicious about the answers she's giving me. I started thinking so, but the next moment, Mion stopped walking and slowly turned to me. Her eyes were intensely staring straight at me. Wow, spooky. So? Huh? Mion? So what are you going to do? Keep silent like this, or what? Who is this person? The gaze emitting from those eyes was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. The person in front of me right now can't be Mion. It's another person. Those were the keen eyes of a predator, sapping the freedom of all who gaze upon them, with a horrifying glow emanating from within. I felt like I had no options to choose from. I finally gained the strength to utter a few words. I was forced to say them. We're friends, right? Friends? Mion's dry laughter paralysed me. I got the impression she was saying that those words had no meaning. More specifically, like she was telling me that friendship didn't matter. If I got in the way, I was simply an enemy. Well, that's enough. Anyway, this is the last time we'll speak of this. Mion turned the corner like usual and went on towards her house. Then she said bye-bye, as if nothing had happened at all. For a while I stood there, unable to move. I couldn't understand. Was Mion a threat or not? I stood completely still, as the chorus of Higurashi echoed through my ears. It is slightly earlier than usual. And by slightly earlier than usual, I mean half an hour earlier than usual, but I think we've come to a really good stopping point, a really good cliffhanger, and also I want to save a fair chunk of the game for next week, so I don't want to like get all through it today, so I am, although it is early, going to end stream off here. I'm going to say thank you very, very much for watching. It is very, very much appreciated, and I do hope that you enjoyed. I will be streaming Heaven Will Be Mine this Saturday. It is an indie game about gays in space. I haven't yet decided what route I'm going to be doing, but we will be streaming that. Then on Sunday it'll be Destiny 2, where we will be doing any new story stuff and maybe at long last actually finishing off Harbinger. Then on Tuesday it'll be Final Fantasy 14, where it is our last week before 5.5, so we'll be trying to finish up as much as possible. So tombstones, mogstones, and trying to get the last couple of memories I need so I can get through that easily. Then next Thursday will be more Higurashi When They Cry, Taraimawashi, where we will see what happens next. So take care, have a wonderful evening, do be excellent to yourselves and look after each other. Thank you for coming along, and I shall see you guys on Saturday.